हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल। तो आज मैं इसका नेक्स्ट पार्ट और ये एक लास्ट पार्ट होने वाला गाइस, क्योंकि इसके बाद ना अब नॉवल ख़त्म हो चुका है। तो बिना किसी तरीके चलिए शुरुआत करते हैं।
Chapter 59 Yearning Heartbroken Red. Ning Rongrong's expression wavered between being praised and being fooled. Can you tell me what an immortal herb actually is? She pressed. How does it even work? There won't be any side effects after eating it, right? Beside them, Xiao Wu, who had been standing quietly all along, subconsciously perked up her ears. Immortal herb. This was a word she had never heard of in her 100,000-year lifespan. Not a spirit beast, not a spirit ring or spirit bone. It was a plant that could help humans enhance their spirits. Curiosity was like a small claw, gently scratching at the bottom of her heart. Yangqing glanced at Ning Rongrong. Wait a moment. Then he vanished. Vanished in the literal sense. In the blink of an eye, the chair was empty. Ning Rongrong and Xiao Wu looked at each other in dismay. Less than 30 seconds later, Yang Xing's figure recondensed in the center of the room. I'm back. He clapped his hands, as if he had just stepped outside to take out the trash. Ning Rongrong stared at him. Where did you just go? Borrowed some knowledge from next door. Yang Xing's tone was casual. He didn't explain any further. In fact, what he had just done was very simple. He had appeared in Tang San's room. Under the terrified and blank gazes of Tang San and Oscar, blue light rose from his palm and covered Tang San's head. Complete Hand's blue hand activated. He precisely extracted all information regarding immortal herbs from Tang San's memories and then directly vanished. The whole process took no more than 20 seconds. Leaving Tang San and Oscar staring at each other wide-eyed in the room. At this moment, Yangqing was standing in front of the two girls, his mind already filled with the complete knowledge system of immortal herbs obtained from Tang San. All right, he leaned back into his chair and waved at Ning Rongrong. Sit down, master will tell you what an immortal herb is. Ning Rongrong obediently moved a stool and sat opposite Yangqing. Xiao Wu stood a little further away, her body turned sideways, but her ears were clearly tilted a few degrees toward the side. Immortal herbs are treasures nurtured by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Yang Xing's voice was unhurried. Unlike spirit beasts, they are not conscious living beings, but pure natural treasures. Most of them grow in extreme locations where spiritual energy gathers. The core function of immortal herbs is to defy the heavens and change one's destiny. They can greatly enhance spirit power, temper bones and muscles, and more importantly, purify or even evolve spirits. Ning Rongrong's eyes grew brighter and brighter. Yangqing continued. There are many kinds of immortal herbs, each with its own miraculous effects. For example, there's one called octagonal mysterious ice grass, an extremely cold floral item that is a rare and deadly poison. There's also the blazing apricot delicate, completely fiery red, possessing top-tier fire poison. Taking these two together can make the user immune to water and fire. There's also the 10,000-year ginseng king, a highly nourishing immortal herb that can help people build their foundation. Dragon Ganoderma leaf can consolidate the origin and nourish the vital essence, stimulating the recovery of spirit power. Keelong Tongtian chrysanthemum, when consumed, circulates energy through the limbs and blood through the 8 extraordinary meridians, allowing one to cultivate an indestructible Vajra body. Ning Rongrong listened so intently that even her breathing grew lighter. So did Xiao Wu, her body unconsciously leaned forward a fraction, her pupils reflecting an unprecedented astonishment. In the knowledge of a 100,000-year spirit beast, such things had never existed. Yang Xing's voice remained unhurried. His gaze looked at Ning Rongrong, a gentle smile hanging at the corners of his mouth, and on the surface all his attention was focused on his obedient disciple. But his next sentence precisely pierced into another person's heart. There is also one called Yearning Heartbroken Red. His speaking speed slowed slightly. It is the divine supreme treasure among immortal grade medicinal herbs. It has the effect of bringing the dead back to life and fleshing out bones. It can increase spirit power by at least 10 levels or more. He paused for a beat. The most crucial thing is that it can also help a transformed spirit beast conceal the aura on its body. His eyes were not looking at Xiao Wu. Carried on one's person, even powerhouses at the title Douluo level cannot detect the true identity of a transformed spirit beast. The air fell silent for half a second. Xiao Wu's pupils suddenly dilated. Her heartbeat skipped a beat in that instant, and then accelerated wildly. Even title Douluos couldn't detect it. This sentence exploded in her mind, like a beam of light shining into a pitch black abyss where one could not see one's hand before one's face. If she could obtain this kind of immortal herb. If she consumed Yearning Heartbroken Red. She wouldn't have to be afraid anymore, wouldn't have to fear any title Douluo seeing through her identity, and if Rongrong's master would also let her off, she wouldn't have to live every moment in the shadow of being hunted. Xiao Wu's hands clenched tightly at her sides against her skirt, her knuckles turning white. The layer of light surging up in the depths of her eyes was too intense, and she had to turn her face away, afraid that her expression would expose something. But at the same time, a deeper, complex emotion surged up from the bottom of her heart. When Yangqing said those words, his gaze never looked at her from beginning to end. He didn't even give her a sidelong glance. But that timing, that tone, and that deliberately slowed speaking speed made it impossible for Xiao Wu to convince herself that this was just a coincidence. He did it on purpose. He said it on purpose for her to hear. Why? Was it goodwill? Was it a peace offering? Or was it another more covert form of control? Xiao Wu's expression was complex to the extreme. She lowered her head, her eyelashes concealing the surging emotions in the depths of her eyes. Yangqing didn't give her too much time to think. He explained the effects of a few more immortal herbs, neither fast nor slow, with just the right amount of information. Finally, he stopped and looked at Ning Rongrong. Therefore, the Douluo tulip is an immortal herb specifically aimed at enhancing spirit quality. It won't harm your foundation, but will only let your spirit evolve to the height it was meant to reach. He paused. He didn't say any more reasoning, didn't cite any more examples, and didn't explain any further. He just looked at Ning Rongrong and smiled. Trust me. 3 words. Light and breezy. Ning Rongrong looked into those eyes that were clear, calm, and without a single flicker of hesitation. The string in her heart that had been taut all along suddenly loosened. She didn't know why. When these 3 words came out of Yangqing's mouth, she just felt that she could believe them. Okay, Ning Rongrong jumped up from the stool, her hands clutching her skirt hem, her eyes sparkling. Then when are we setting off? Now, right now. Yangqing hadn't answered yet. Rongrong, Xiao Wu's voice chimed in from the side. Ning Rongrong turned to look at her. Xiao Wu's expression had largely returned to normal as she hesitantly spoke. Did you forget? Dean Flender has a class this evening, and he said everyone must attend. Tomorrow, everyone is also going collectively to help Oscar obtain his level 30 spirit ring, led by teacher Zhao. Ning Rongrong's movements froze. Right. She had previously had a very unpleasant falling out with Dean Flender, Zhao Wuji, teacher Li Yusong, and Dai Mubai. If she skipped class and didn't participate in the collective action at a time like this. Ning Rongrong bit her lower lip. Although she had an arrogant personality, she wasn't foolish enough to go against people everywhere on someone else's territory. Before tomorrow morning's operation, I will definitely send you back. Yang Xing's voice rang out. Ning Rongrong raised her head to look at him. As for Dean Flender's class this afternoon, Yang Xing stood up and stretched his neck. I'll go ask for leave on your behalf. Ning Rongrong opened her mouth, but Dean Flender. Xiao Wu also wanted to say something. Will he agree? After all. Neither of the two girls finished speaking. Yang Xing was already gone. Ning Rongrong and Xiao Wu stood in the empty room, exchanging glances. Your master, the corners of Xiao Wu's mouth twitched, really comes and goes as he pleases. Ning Rongrong pressed a hand to her forehead. You'll get used to it. She crossed her arms, tilted her head to look at the spot where Yang Xing had disappeared. However, there shouldn't be a problem with him going to ask for leave, right? Xiao Wu pressed her lips together. Definitely. Even though both of them spoke in the form of a question, they inexplicably ended with a tone of affirmation. At this moment, Shrek Academy teacher residential area. Flender's room was brightly lit. That signature shoe sole face was leaning close to the desk, his black framed square glasses pressed against the paper, his pen tip rustling away. He was writing the lesson plan for this evening's class. The content was very simple, forcibly making all students consume Oscar's various types of sausage spirit tools. That kid's spirit incantation was far too vulgar and sleazy, but the effect was solid and real. Everyone had to overcome their psychological barriers and be able to eat open-mouthed in actual combat. The pen tipped out a few drops of ink on the paper at the location of a certain name. Ning Rongrong. This girl hadn't attended yesterday's class at all, if she still absented herself today. Flender's brows furrowed tightly. The sheet of paper underneath was tomorrow's action plan. Led by Zhao Wuji, all 7 students were to go to the Stardew Great Forest to hunt a level 30 spirit ring for Oscar. In the middle, a session of social practice was also arranged. The plan was to let Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun pick a quarrel and stir up trouble. Then come with a field drill of mediocre or those who dare not stir up trouble, adding experience for his good students to travel alone across the continent in the future. Flender's mouth hooked up. These boys and girls were too comfortable in the academy, they needed to go out and see some blood. He was writing at a crucial point, his mental focus extremely high. A hand patted his shoulder. Damn it. Flender's whole body jolted, the writing brush in his hand flung away, leaving an ink stain on the wall. He bounced up from the chair with a screech and turned around, a pair of eyes behind his black-framed glasses staring roundly. Chapter 60. Arrogant at first, humble later. How can you still enter my body? Standing before him was a young man. Black hair, a blue and white martial outfit and long gown, a mediocre face yet somehow comforting. He was looking at him with a smile. Flender did not recognize this person at all. Who are you? His voice rose, his soul-like face filled with anger. Which blind young man in the village is this? Who let you in? This is a private area of Shrek Academy. How did you break in? Get the hell out of here. The young man did not move. He didn't even change his expression. He just stood there with a smile, as if watching a good show. Flender's anger grew even greater. He was just about to raise his hand to blast this audacious brat out. Then his world fell silent. 9 halos emerged from beneath the young man's feet. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 red. 9 spirit rings bloomed in Flender's cramped room, and the final blood red light dyed the entire wall crimson. Flender's cursing stopped abruptly. As if someone had choked his throat. His face experienced a 3-tier jump from iron blue to pale, and then to ghastly white within a single second. His knees went soft, and his lower back bumped against the edge of the table. His black-rimmed glasses slid half an inch down the bridge of his nose. 9 rings. A titled Douluo. And that red ring. Flender's Adam's apple rolled up and down twice. All the curses in his mouth jammed tightly in his throat, unable to pop out a single word. Yang Xing retracted his spirit ring. The light dispersed, and the room returned to the dim, yellowish glow of the lamp. Sorry. Yang Xing's tone was as casual as greeting someone in a vegetable market. I startled Dean Flender. Flender's expression completed a transformation worthy of an Oscar-winning actor within 3 seconds. The iron blue color was gone. The angry look was gone. A practically brilliant smile blossomed on that soul-like face, except the smiling muscles were fighting each other, stiff as if glued on. Oh my. Flender's pitch suddenly rose by an octave, and he rubbed his hands together in front of him. I wonder which title Douluo your excellency has graced our humble Shrek Academy. It was Flender who was blind and neglected your excellency. His waist bent down. Not much, not less, precisely 15 degrees. This is Flender's honor. Our Shrek Academy has been a poor host. If you have any business, please speak directly. Flender will say everything he knows and tell all without reservation, and I will definitely not refuse anything I can do. The smile became more and more forced, the corners of his mouth almost stretching to his ear roots. Looking at this face that was completely different before and after, Yang Xing mentally gave Flender an 8 out of 10 for his face-changing speed. Dean Flender is too polite. He raised his hand and pressed it lightly in the air, signaling the other party not to make such a big bow. Let me introduce myself. He paused. I am Ning Rongrong's master, the person who injured teacher Zhao Wuji, teacher Li Yusong, and another student on your academy's playground late the night before yesterday. Flender's smile froze. The stiff flower on his face instantly froze into an ice sculpture. A layer of obvious shock rolled through his pupils. Ning Rongrong's master. The person who slapped Zhao Wuji flat and kicked teacher Li Yusong 15 meters away the night before last. Is this young man right in front of him who looked less than 20 years old? Flender had always thought that mysterious Ning Rongrong's master was at most a spirit Douluo. After all, the 7 treasure glazed tile school overtly only had 2 titled Douluos, when did a third one pop out? But now 9 spirit rings were clearly placed right before him. A titled Douluo. A true, genuine titled Douluo. Flender's back had already begun to sweat. But he didn't have time to fully digest this shock before Yang Xing's next sentence arrived. It's like this, Dean Flender. Yang Xing's tone was gentle and ordinary, with a faint smile at the corners of his mouth. I need to take Ning Rongrong out to handle some matters. For the class you arranged for the students this evening, help her ask for a leave of absence. I will send her back before early tomorrow morning, which won't delay your collective action tomorrow. The words were spoken very politely. The tone always carried a smile. But when those eyes looked at Flender, there was no intention of asking at all. At this moment, various emotions were turning on Flender's face. There was anger. As a dignified dean of an academy, being assigned and arranged by someone coming to his door, where did he put his face? There was also a sense of humiliation. The night before last when he wasn't around, 2 teachers were beaten in the academy, and he didn't even make it to the scene. Fear was even more present. 9 spirit rings, the afterimage left by that blood-red 9th ring in the depths of his eyes still hadn't dissipated. And helplessness, a bone-deep helplessness. Did he dare to say no? I'm afraid the moment he said it, he might cease to exist. On the surface of the Douluo continent, there were no more than 2 handfuls of titled Douluos. One could imagine their high status as well as the formidable and terrifying strength. It was simply not something a spirit saint like him could compare to. These emotions turned together, and what ultimately appeared on his face was an extremely complex, twisted, and stiff to the point of ugly smile. Of course. Flender nodded. He nodded without any hesitation. There was even a hint of fawning flavor in his voice. Should be. Matters concerning your excellency the titled crown are naturally the most important. As for classes, they can be held anytime, we aren't short of this one lesson. Yangqing narrowed his eyes with a smile. He raised his hand and patted Flender's stiff shoulder. The force of his palm falling was not heavy, but Flender's whole body trembled. Dean Flender is indeed a sensible person. The next moment, the palm left the shoulder. The person disappeared. Flender stood in place, maintaining that smiling posture for another 3 seconds. Then his whole body seemed as if the bone supporting his body had been sucked out, his legs went soft, and he sat heavily on the ground. His back pressed against the table leg, covered in cold sweat. His black-rimmed glasses slid to the tip of his nose. He stared at the void where Yangqing disappeared, his lips trembled twice, and the cursing words turned 18 bends in his throat, but in the end not a single word was cursed out. In Ning Rongrong's dormitory, Yangqing's figure reappeared before the 2 girls. He snapped his fingers. Done. Ning Rongrong and Xiaowu raised their heads to look at him simultaneously. Dean Flender gladly agreed. Yangqing's tone was as relaxed as if he had just borrowed a scallion from next door. Very understanding, not difficult at all. Then Yangqing didn't delay any further, stepping forward to gently place his hand on Ning Rongrong's shoulder, and the next moment the 2 disappeared before Xiaowu, who wore a complex expression. When the 2 appeared again, it was already 2 hours later. Over 300 miles outside Heaven-Do City, Sunset Forest. As soon as Ning Rongrong's feet touched the ground, her whole body bent over and she began to vomit loudly. Nothing came out, just dry heaving. Once, twice, 3 times. Her fair little face flushed red, and physiological tears were forced out of the corners of her eyes. Having finally caught her breath, she supported her knees, her mouth never stopping. Silly master, stinky master, stupid master, you infuriate me. With one hand covering her chest and the other pointing at the smiling figure standing beside her, her voice was sharp and trembling. Where's there a master like you? Isn't going on a distant trip supposed to be the master leading the apprentice? Yangqing stood 3 steps away, his hand stuck inside his sleeves, looking very innocent. Ning Rongrong didn't give him a chance to speak. And the result, with you, it's the apprentice leading the master. She panted heavily, her speaking speed getting faster and faster. Making this young lady turn into a bird to act as your mount, you. She stuttered. Stuttering out of anger. The finger pointing at Yangqing was shaking. How dare you? Yangqing's smile still hung there, even tilting his head to make a posture of listening attentively. And those weird things you call airplanes, skateboards, and helicopters. Ning Rongrong's voice cracked. What kind of things are those? Why are they in such bizarre shapes? You. She stuttered again. She took a deep breath and clenched her fists. How can they still enter my body? Chapter 61. It seems to be the lair of a guy named Douluo, right? When she shouted those words, her entire face flushed to the roots of her ears. There was shyness, and there was anger. Ah. Ning Rongrong stamped her feet in place, her short hair swinging along with it. This young lady is about to be driven to death of anger by you, this swindler of a master. When I go back, I will definitely complain to Grandpa Sword and Grandpa Jiu. I will tell them you believe me. Yangqing just watched with a smiling expression, saying not a single word. His eyes curved into crescents, and the arc of his mouth was just at the degree that made people want to beat him up yet unable to bring themselves to do it. When Ning Rongrong dry heaved a couple more times, finally stopped talking, and began panting heavily with her hands supporting her knees, Yangqing finally moved. He raised his right index finger and continuously drew 3 talisman patterns in the empty air. 1 pale cyan rhyme spirit talisman, 1 milky white chi nourishing talisman, and 1 slightly red essence replenishing talisman. The 3 light talismans floated out silently, drifting lightly onto Ning Rongrong's body and sinking into the center of her brows and her chest. A cool aura spread out. Ning Rongrong's small face, which was still flushing, visibly returned to normal. Her breathing steadied, and the churning sensation in her chest also receded. Only then did Yangqing speak. Isn't this in accordance with your request, my obedient disciple, helping you train your Fuhokumen? His tone was as open and untroubled as if he were discussing how the weather was nice today. Ning Rongrong shot a glare like a knife over. Completely ignoring it, Yangqing continued, and besides, doesn't my obedient disciple feel that your control over Fuhokumen has increased by just a tiny bit right now? He held up one finger, measuring an extremely small gap between his thumb and index finger. Just a tiny bit. Ning Rongrong didn't answer, glaring at him while panting. If this master hadn't made you transform into all sorts of gadgets you've never seen before and enlightened you on the methods of spatial manipulation, could you have grown this fast? Probably not, right? Yangqing spread his hands, his expression so innocent it was punchable. Besides, master only made you carry master for less than an hour, wasn't master carrying you the rest of the time, my obedient disciple? The very second those words fell, Ning Rongrong completely exploded like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. You called it carrying? She rushed forward a step, her finger almost poking Yangqing's chest. Is there anyone who carries people the way you do? Isn't that just purely carrying me by the neck? She gestured, mimicking the posture of Yangqing carrying her by the back collar like a little chick while flying high in the sky. From now on, this young lady will never go on a long journey with you, this bastard, stinky master, and big swindler, ever again. Yangqing tilted his head, raising his hands with an innocent face. Isn't that because men and women should keep a proper distance from each other? A bit of resentment instantly cooled in Ning Rongrong's eyes. Yangqing changed his expression in an instant. He reeled in his cheeky expression and put on a deliberately solemn and serious look. He didn't know when, but a long wooden stick appeared in his hand. He used that stick to point at the forest in front of the 2 of them. Obedient disciple. Ning Rongrong looked over following the direction. We have already arrived at our destination, Yangqing said in a deadpan tone. The immortal herb that will help your spirit advance is right inside. Master believes you are already unable to wait. Ning Rongrong pressed her lips together. Yangqing hoisted the stick onto his shoulder and spat out a sentence that Ning Rongrong completely didn't understand. Let's go. Then he waved his hand as if possessed by a passionate youth. Hurry up and set off. The immortal herb won't wait for anyone. Ning Rongrong could tell. This swindler of a master was changing the subject. On her fair, flushed cheeks, those almond-shaped eyes stared resentfully at Yangqing for a full 3 seconds. Facing her gaze, Yangqing smiled until his eyes narrowed into slits. Doesn't Ning Rongrong understand by now that this master of hers is simply a troublemaker who loves to watch the fun? Although she didn't know the meaning of this word, these 3 words just happened to pop into her head. However, given that what Yangqing said was indeed a serious matter. If the immortal herb that could help her spirit advance was really in the forest right before her eyes, then the matter of her being used as a mount by this cheap big swindler of a master wouldn't be worth fussing over. Wait. Ning Rongrong's gaze shifted away from Yangqing's face and landed on the lush woods before her. Familiar. Very familiar. She was stunned for a moment, then opened her mouth to ask, Swindler master, what is the name of this forest? Yangqing held the long wooden stick, raised it to rest on his shoulder, and casually replied. Sunset Forest, is there a problem? Ning Rongrong jumped up in place. What, this is Sunset Forest? Her voice was so sharp it could pierce through walls. Isn't that right outside Heavendo City? Is it right next to my family's 7 treasure glazed tile school? Yangqing chuckled, of course. With those words finished, he didn't say anything more. With a wave of his large hand, he took Ning Rongrong and vanished from the spot. When they appeared once again, underneath their feet was the top of a hill about 500 meters high. To be precise, it was the edge of an inverted cone-shaped mountain hollow. Thick water mist churned upward from the depths of the mountain hollow, hitting their faces with a moist and slightly warm sensation. A faint sulfur aura was mixed within the water vapor. Ning Rongrong's upcoming word stuck in her throat. She saw it. At the bottom of the mountain hollow, an elliptical spring eye lay right in the center. The spring water was divided into 2 halves, one half milk white like jade, and the other crimson like blood. The 2 colors were distinct and clear-cut, neither encroaching upon the other, just quietly coexisting within the same pool of water. Billowing steam rose from the gap where the 2 springs met, curling upward like a white dragon winding about. It only slowly dissipated when it reached the mouth of the mountain hollow, shrouding the entire hollow in a layer of fairyland-like haziness. Surrounding the spring eye was a completely different scene. All kinds of plants grew densely. Some were entirely snow-white like jade bones, some had crystal-clear petals tinged with pale pink, and some had leaf surfaces radiating colorful lights flashing with golden patterns. Each plant was more unusual than the last, each tree more dazzling than the last. With thousands of postures and variations, it resembled a natural botanical treasure trove. A quiet and elegant floral fragrance drifted over from all directions, not strong, yet refreshing to the heart and spirit. Ning Rongrong was dumbfounded. Her mouth slightly open, her eyes reflected those 2 distinct pools of spring water in the full view of exotic flowers and rare herbs, her pupils filled with utter disbelief. Feeling as if floating to immortality. Only these 4 words popped into her head. But very quickly, her gaze shifted away from those extremely beautiful immortal herbs, landing on a more peripheral location. The vegetation there was different from the middle. The colors were deep, purplish-black, or excessively bright to the point of being blinding. Faint wisps of purplish-black smoke could be seen drifting out from among those plants. Like a venomous snake sticking out its forked tongue, it was silent and soundless, yet made people instinctively alert. More importantly, those venomous vegetation surrounded the entire treasured land in a circle. Like a defensive wall. And they were arranged neatly and orderly. There were traces of having been artificially tended to. Ning Rongrong's brows furrowed, her nose was very sharp. Swindler master. Her tone changed, with less bantering and a few more parts of caution. How does this place look like someone is here? Yangqing hadn't spoken at all since entering this treasured land. Based on the immortal herb knowledge he obtained from Tang San in his mind, he was zestfully appreciating the surrounding vegetation that one could tell were worth the city at a glance, like a tourist who had forgotten the time while wandering in a museum. Hearing Ning Rongrong's words, he didn't even turn his head. That's right. His tone was plain and flat, as if he were discussing what to eat for dinner today. Ning Rongrong was slightly stunned. What? She took half a step forward and asked another sentence. There really is someone, who? Yangqing finally turned his head around. The long wooden stick in his hand rested on his shoulder, a trace of a reminiscent expression floating onto his face, his tone dragged out leisurely. It seems to be. Ning Rongrong stared at him. The lair of a guy named Douluo, right? Chapter 62, Think from another angle. Yangqing paid no attention to Ning Rongrong's face, which was plastered with shock. With a light step under his feet, his figure vanished right at the edge of the mountain hollow, and in the next moment, he was already standing in the medicinal garden beside that pool of the ice and fire yin-yang well. The Douluo tulip was 3 steps away right in front of him. Its golden crown swayed slightly amidst the water mist, the petals crystal clear, each one shimmering with a faint glazed luster. The rhizome was thick, rooted on the bank at the confluence of the 2 extreme springs, as if it was naturally meant to grow here. Yangqing looked it over twice and nodded in satisfaction. Then he raised his head and waved toward the top of the cliff. Apprentice, if you don't come down soon, your teacher is going to just lie down right here and take a nap. Yangqing's lazy voice came from below, accompanied by a long yawn. He was half leaning against a large rock bonelessly, shaking the wooden stick he brought with him absent-mindedly. At the top of the cliff, Ning Rongrong's expression was still hesitant. Douluo's territory, the territory of a titled Douluo. Although her Grandpa Jiyu and Grandpa Sword were stronger than the poisoned Douluo, they weren't here. The only one accompanying her right now was this cheap master of hers, who looked reliable but she wasn't actually sure just how reliable he was. What if Douluo suddenly came back? Ning Rongrong clenched her teeth. Fu Ho Kim silently operated beneath her feet, and space folded slightly. Her figure flickered 3 times among the cliff walls, landing lightly beside Yangqing like a falling leaf. The moment she landed, her head started turning left and right. Her eyeballs swept around restlessly. Looking at the cave entrance over there. Looking again at the cliff wall above her head. Looking again at the distant fog-shrouded edge area. The whole person looked just like a thief caught in the act. Rest assured. Yangqing's voice drifted over from the side, his tone as relaxed as if he were talking about what to have for lunch today. Before I brought you in just now, your teacher already observed it, there's no one here. Douluo really isn't here, and besides, isn't your teacher here too? Tilda, don't be afraid, Tilda. Ning Rongrong's shoulders relaxed by 30%. She looked around 2 more times. Indeed, there was no one's aura. Only those rolling water mists and eyes full of exotic flowers and rare herbs. Only then did she shift her attention to the thing in front of her. The Douluo tulip. The golden crown trembled slightly in the water vapor, and a lump of liquid golden essence slowly circulated at the stamen, emitting an extremely soft yet incomparably mellow spiritual energy fluctuation. Ning Rongrong squatted down. Her two eyes stared unblinkingly at that flower. A layer of hazy light gradually floated up in her pupils. How should she put it? Before seeing this immortal herb, relying solely on Yangxing's words, she always had a stone hanging in her heart. After all, the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda was a spirit passed down for thousands of years, relying on a single flower to make it evolve into the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda. It sounded like a fantasy. But now, when she was truly squatting in front of this flower, a strange feeling rose from her chest. It wasn't seen with her eyes. It was that 7th sense brought to her by Fu Hokiman. An instinctive comprehension of her own lifeline. It was like a long blurred road suddenly having streetlights lit up by someone. This was what she had been searching for all along. It was something that should have appeared in her future. Ning Rongrong's breathing grew lighter. I didn't lie to you, did I? Yangxing's voice came from behind. Ning Rongrong's head nodded several times like a rattle drum. She raised her head, her pair of apricot eyes seeming to be embedded with silver crystal chips in the light refracted by the water mist, dazzlingly bright. Master, what should I do now? Eat it directly or, how to use it? Yangxing walked over to her side, squatted down, and the wooden stick in his hand pointed toward the stamen direction of the Douluo tulip. No need to eat it. Gently inhale the stamen, slowly ingest the essence inside into your body. Afterwards, circulate your spirit power, letting the medicinal efficacy slowly spread throughout your limbs and bones. Don't rush, take your time. He stood up and patted the dirt on his trouser legs. Start right here. Ning Rongrong's bottom didn't move. She raised her head to look at Yangxing, her brows slightly furrowed. However, this is the poison Douluo's territory. Her voice dropped by 2 degrees. If I absorb it right here like this, what should I do if Douluo comes back in the middle? Before her voice had completely fallen. Crack. A wooden stick accurately struck the top of her head. Hiss. Ning Rongrong covered her head with both hands, letting out a cry of pain. Wrinkling her nose, she raised her little face, a pair of eyes filled with confusion and grievance. Why did you hit me? Yangxing withdrew the stick and rested it on his shoulder, his face wearing an expression that seemed to carry a hint of disdain. Idiot. Ning Rongrong's mouth opened wide. Have you forgotten the Fu Hokiman your teacher taught you? For such a simple matter, just calculate it yourself. Do you still need your master to teach you? Ning Rongrong's brows immediately furrowed even tighter. It wasn't that she hadn't thought of calculating. But the problem was, the poison Douluo is a titled Douluo. Her tone became urgent. A figure who occupies such a high world weight, calculating his whereabouts has a terrifyingly huge price, alright. With my little cultivation calculating his destiny, I might end up dragging myself into it. You deceitful master, do you just want to watch me make a fool of myself? Yangxing looked at her and shook his head. Then came another stick. Crack. Hiss, you hit me again. Stupid. Yangxing said bluntly. Who told you to calculate the poison Douluo? Ning Rongrong covered her head, her face full of incomprehension. Yangxing's wooden stick pointed at her twice. What is it that you need to know? When Douluo will return? Or whether the process of you yourself absorbing the Douluo tulip is safe or not? Ning Rongrong was stunned. Since you feel the poison Douluo's weight is too heavy to calculate, then change the angle. Calculate yourself. Calculate whether any danger appears in the entire process and result of you absorbing the immortal herb a moment later. Yangxing tapped the ground with his stick. Can't you even calculate your own destiny? Good disciple, sometimes you are too rigid when using Fu Hokiman, only rigidly applying those surface things. Change angles more and think about how to solve problems. Ning Rongrong's hand lowered from the top of her head. She looked at Yangxing, the annoyance in those apricot eyes gradually fading, replaced by a sudden realization. That's right. If she couldn't calculate the poison Douluo, then she could calculate herself. If no danger appeared in her destiny during the process of absorbing the Douluo tulip, then regardless of whether Douluo came back or not, the result would be safe. All roads lead to the same destination. This train of thought was indeed something she hadn't thought of. Ning Rongrong closed her eyes. Fu Hokiman quietly operated within her body, her consciousness sinking into that vast sea of changes. She took the entire process of herself absorbing the Douluo tulip as the core of her deduction, precisely capturing any possible deviations in her destiny. 3 seconds. 5 seconds. She opened her eyes. No danger. Ning Rongrong's voice steadied. From start to finish, there is no crisis signal in my destiny. Yangxing smiled and nodded. Then let's begin. He stepped back 2 steps, leaving space for her. Pausing for a moment, he added another sentence. When absorbing, try to use Fu Hokiman to observe the Douluo tulip. Guide the inflow direction and speed of the medicinal efficacy. It will help you absorb it more efficiently. Ning Rongrong nodded. She sat cross-legged on the ground, not minding that the dirt soiled her white dress. A windless ripple arose around her body, which was Fu Hokiman's subtle control over the surrounding space. Her head leaned close to the Douluo tulip, her lips not directly touching the petals. An invisible breeze brushed past. That lump of golden liquid essence in the stamen of the Douluo tulip moved without wind, turning into a wispy golden thread suspended in the air, slowly drifting into Ning Rongrong's slightly parted lips. She closed her eyes. Her expression was peaceful. Yangxing glanced at it, and after confirming everything was fine, he turned around and strolled away. Holding that wooden stick in his hand, like a tourist visiting a botanical garden, he compared it with the immortal herb knowledge extracted from Tang San's memory in his mind, identifying the surrounding exotic flowers and rare herbs one by one. This is 9-rank dragon Ganoderma. The appearance is alright. This, cinnabar lotus. It grew much bigger than what was in Tang San's head. Oh, this, octagonal mysterious ice grass, extremely poisonous, but it grows pretty well. He muttered to himself as he walked and looked around, full of zest. Chapter 63. Just focus on advancing peacefully. Time passed. About an hour later. Ning Rongrong's body began to tremble. At first, it was just a slight tremor. Then the amplitude grew larger and larger, and a hazy glow began to radiate from her entire body. The 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda emerged from her body on its own, hovering above her head. That small, 7-story pagoda was undergoing some kind of transformation at this moment. The light flowing across the pagoda body began to spread outward from 7 colors. An 8th color of light emerged. The 9th followed closely behind. The 9-colored glazed light burst forth resplendently. The entire precious land around the ice and fire yin-yang well was instantly shrouded in a brilliant 9-colored radiant light. The milky white spring water reflected glazed colors, while the crimson red spring water refracted myriad rays of rainbow clouds. Those exotic flowers and rare herbs swayed gracefully under the bath of the 9-colored light, making the entire mountain recess look like a fairyland descended upon earth. Yangqing stood a dozen meters away, shielding his eyes with his hand to take a look. It looks quite pretty. He made this comment and continued to study an unknown purple fungus nearby. Meanwhile, inside a cliff grotto far away from the ice and fire yin-yang well, a pair of emerald green eyes suddenly snapped open. Douluo was indeed not near his medicinal garden at the ice and fire yin-yang well at this moment. Because he was cultivating at another of his strongholds in the Sunset Forest, it was just a bit far from the ice and fire yin-yang well. But right now, a violent external energy fluctuation broke his tranquility. He raised his head. Outside the stone wall, the faint afterglow of a 9-colored light filtered in. Douluo frowned deeply. This area was his private plot in the Sunset Forest, there shouldn't be anyone here. Besides, that direction. Was it the direction of his medicinal garden? Could it be that a precious herb has manifested? He muttered a sentence, got up, pushed open the stone door, and flew straight toward the 9-colored radiance. A few seconds later, he arrived nearby and landed. What met his eyes was a towering pillar of 9-colored light rising from beside the ice and fire yin-yang well, illuminating the entire mountain recess into a dreamlike illusion. At the source of the light pillar was a young woman sitting cross-legged on the ground, with a forming 9-story pagoda floating above her head, and 9-colored flowing light cascading down. Douluo's gaze first fell upon that pagoda. He narrowed his eyes. It looked like the 7-treasure glazed tile pagoda, but the 7-treasure glazed tile pagoda had 7 stories. This one had 9. Plus, the woman's face was submerged in the 9-colored light, making it unclear. He didn't recognize her. It was some unknown spirit. Then his gaze shifted to the standing person beside her, a young man. Looking further down beneath the woman, a golden plant topped with a tulip corolla had already noticeably withered by more than half. His line of sight moved lower. Beneath the girl was a plant with a golden tulip blooming at the top. He recognized this one. Although he couldn't name it, he knew it was one of the many precious herbs in his medicinal garden whose effects he didn't know. At this moment, that plant was clearly withered by more than half, its essence entirely lost. Looking again at the increasingly intense light above the girl's head. It was obviously related to that precious herb whose effects he didn't understand. In other words, these two ignorant little thieves who had broken in seemed to know quite a bit about certain precious herbs in his medicinal garden that even he didn't recognize. A trace of greed flashed across Douluo's eyes. Then, with a hint of a tone determined to win, after his mind spun rapidly, he chose to strike first regardless of who they were and roared in fury. Where did these little thieves come from? His thunderous roar exploded from above the cliff. How dare you trespass into this old man's forbidden ground? 9 spirit rings lit up one after another from beneath his feet. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 5 black. The full pressure of a tidal Douluo poured down, covering the entire mountain recess. Below. Yangqing raised his head and glanced at the furious old man on the cliff. His expression remained as usual, without the slightest surprise. After all, the timing he chose to bring Ningrongrong to the Sunset Forest wasn't specifically picked. Plus, he didn't know and felt no need to figure out the daily routine of this poisoned Douluo. Therefore, when he had just arrived with Ningrongrong, he sensed that the poisoned Douluo was indeed still in the forest, and the two sides happened to bump into each other rather awkwardly. Then why did Yangqing tell Ningrongrong that he wasn't here? The reason was very simple. Yangqing stated that what he said was that there was no poisoned Douluo right here at the ice and fire yin-yang well, and he didn't say there was no poisoned Douluo anywhere else. If Ningrongrong knew about Yangqing's shameless thoughts, she would definitely complain once again about her unreliable scammer master who was always digging traps for her to step into. Unfortunately, it was impossible for her to know. Meanwhile, Ningrongrong, who had just entered the final critical stage and could slightly split her focus, also opened her eyes and saw that figure on the cliff, those 9 spirit rings, and that withered face so gloomy it could drip water. Her eyes instantly widened. She recognized his identity at first glance, because she had seen him a few times when she accompanied her father to visit the Heaven Do imperial family. The poisoned Douluo. That was a genuine title Douluo. Master, Ningrongrong's voice was high-pitched and panicked, and she cried out to Yangqing in astonishment, what should we do, what should we do? The poisoned Douluo is really here. She knew that if she revealed her identity, Douluo definitely wouldn't do anything to her, but she guessed that her spirit advancement this time would most likely fail halfway through. And even if the advancement didn't fail, for her spirit to be seen by Douluo would definitely be disadvantageous to their 7-treasure glazed tile school. At the current stage, the 7-treasure glazed tile school was already strong enough on the surface. The various major powers of the Douluo continent allowed the current 7-treasure glazed tile school, one of the upper 3 sects, to exist, but they would absolutely not allow an upper 3 sect that had advanced from 7-treasure to 9-treasure glazed tile to exist. Therefore, for a moment, Ningrongrong fell into a dilemma. This shouldn't be. Didn't I just calculate that there was no danger? What is going on right now? Is it because my level is too low, so the calculation wasn't accurate? Before her voice finished trailing off, Douluo had already jumped down from the cliff. His eyes suddenly lit up with an eerie emerald green light, and under the catalysis of spirit power, his skull area presented a nearly bizarre translucent emerald green, looking extremely hideous. Medusa's gaze. Accompanied by a low shout, 2 terrifying beams of light with mutant effects were directionally jetted out from his eyes, transforming into straight rays. Carrying destructive energy fluctuations, they whistled toward Yangqing and Ningrongrong. Wherever this light passed, the water mist in the air, the flowing spirit power, and even the hot and cold energies rising from the ice and fire yin-yang well were forcibly petrified the instant they touched the light, turning into grayish-white rock fragments that fell down in rustling sounds. Energy petrification. Douluo clearly didn't intend to kill Yangqing and Ningrongrong, the little thieves who had broken into his territory, but rather petrify and control them. This would make it convenient for him to interrogate them later for the information he wanted. Ningrongrong's pupils reflected those 2 rapidly approaching grayish-green rays that looked extremely dangerous. If she continued absorbing, her soul and flesh together might be turned into stone statues by this domineering light. Interrupting the advancement meant falling short at the final hurdle. The shadow of the petrifying ray had already enveloped her head. It was too late. Ningrongrong clenched her teeth, right at the moment when she was about to forcibly interrupt the spirit advancement ceremony. Good disciple, your temperament isn't calm enough. The voice was very soft, coming from beside her. Unhurried and unforced, it sounded as if he were calling her to dinner. Do you still remember the result of your own calculation? Yangqing stood by her side without even changing his posture. Since you calculated that there was no danger, then there is no danger. Just focus on advancing peacefully. Chapter 64, Driving a Stake, Unsealing, Standing on Tiptoe. Ning Rongrong's movements froze. That sentence pierced into her, turning hard like a calming sea needle. But that's the title Douluo, she spoke subconsciously. The rest of her words hadn't been spoken yet. Yangqing had already stepped forward and walked out. Spirit rings began to pop out from his body one after another. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 black. A few very light steps. Without erupting any spirit power, just walking casually to the front of Ning Rongrong, the 9th red spirit ring on his body had already manifested. There was astonishment and shock in Ning Rongrong's eyes. Then Yangqing waved his right hand to the side. Like swatting a fly. Those two mutated beams of light, sufficient to turn everything into stone, paused eerily in midair the moment they collided with Yangqing's palm wind. Following closely, that overbearing petrification energy was reversely suppressed by an even more terrifying power, and along with the light itself, it was forcibly condensed into a substantive gray stone pillar in an instant, which then shattered into dust all over the ground with a crash under Yangqing's fluttering palm wind. Shattered stone fragments splashed everywhere, drifting to both sides and sinking into the cliff wall and soil. Douluo, who had landed on the cliff wall, paused his steps. Those emerald green pupils suddenly contracted. He had lived for the greater part of his life, and his combat experience was immensely rich. The force, angle, and energy deconstruction method of that wave from the young man in front of him just now were not something an ordinary spirit master could achieve. Even his proud head bone skill, Medusa's gaze, could be so easily physically shattered. This casual demeanor. And that actually was 9 spirit rings. Are you kidding me? Such a young person is actually a title Douluo. And what about that red spirit ring? Douluo retracted his front foot back to the ground, a light of vigilance appearing in the depths of his eyes, realizing that Yangqing was not simple. He did not continue to rush up, his left hand lifted, palm facing forward, making a gesture to cease battle. Hold on, his voice sank, and his speaking speed slowed down a bit. We might have some misunderstandings, let's communicate first. His words hadn't even left his mouth. The air in front of him distorted slightly. Yangqing was already pressed right in front of his face. So close that even his own reflection in the other's pupils could be seen clearly. Then an aura condensed into substance poured out roarfully from the young man's body, like an invisible mountain, enveloping Douluo's entire body. Douluo only felt that his whole body seemed to be placed in a silent storm. Fierce winds howled. Yet he could not move. Not even a single finger could move. His whole body's spirit power was like it had been frozen, disobedient. The light of his 9 spirit rings dimmed like the light of fireflies in front of Yangqing's 9 spirit rings and aura. How is that possible? He was a title Douluo. A 91st rank title Douluo. Although the opponent was also a title Douluo. Yet on what grounds could he make him unable to move at all? Fear. Pure fear, originating from life's instinct, surged up from the base of Douluo's spine. Then Yangqing's palm lifted. He covered the top of Douluo's head, and with a light smile, he spat out a sentence. Since you didn't plan to kill us in the first place, and we also took your things, I am a reasonable person and won't go too far, just close your eyes and sleep for a bit, Tilda. You. Douluo wanted to speak. His lips opened, but his voice was blocked in his throat by that aura. The next second, the force went downwards. Douluo's body began to sink. He was not knocked away. He was not knocked down. He was bit by bit, slowly, pressed into the soil beneath his feet by that palm. First his knees sank into the mud. Then his waist. Then his chest. Douluo's emerald green pupils were filled with astonishment and terror. He desperately wanted to struggle, wanted to release poisonous fog, wanted to activate any spirit ability. Yet his whole body was as if poured with cast iron, completely motionless. A title Douluo who was famously renowned on the surface was at this moment like a sapling planted by a gardener under this young man's hands. His shoulders sank into the soil. His neck sank into the soil. Finally, only a tuft of grayish-white top of his head was still exposed outside the ground. Like a newly planted seed. Yangqing withdrew his palm. Patted them. Done. The tone was as relaxed as if he had just completed a trivial matter. Then he lowered his head to look at that tuft of hair still trembling slightly on the ground, lifted his foot, and stepped on it twice. As if stepping the soil solid. Turning around. He made an okay gesture toward Ning Rongrong's direction. A happy smile hung on his face. Hurry up and concentrate on advancing, good disciple. Ning Rongrong sat in place. Her 2 eyes stared round. Her mouth was open. Unable to close. What did she see just now? Although she saw that her master was also a title Douluo. Yet the other person was also a title Douluo. Poison Douluo Douluo. The notorious and ruthless 90-rank title Douluo. Was just pressed into the soil by her master with one hand like that. Like planting flowers. Planted. Only one thought was spinning wildly in Ning Rongrong's head. Is this true? Was the scene I saw just now true? Yet Yangqing's expressionless face, that relaxed okay gesture, and that tone like everyday chatting were all telling her. It was true. Ning Rongrong's lips moved twice, forcibly swallowing all the shock in the full head of question marks. Closing her eyes. Continuing. The 9-colored light continued to steadily pour out from her body, and the 9th layer formed. The entire pagoda took on a completely new look. 9 layers, 9 colors, 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda. The moment the light dissipated, Ning Rongrong opened her eyes. She lowered her head to look at the exquisite and dainty 9-layer pagoda emerging in the palm of her hand. 9 colors flowed brilliantly, and each layer was more transparent and brighter than the former 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda. Excitement exploded from her chest. Yet she still turned her head to glance at Yangqing first. That person just now was Poison Douluo Douluo, right? Yangqing nodded. Without accident it is him. Master is also seeing him for the first time, not very sure age. Ning Rongrong's mouth twitched. Quote. A title Douluo was just planted into the soil as a seed by you like that. Yangqing wrapped his hands behind his head to clasp the back of his neck, a trace of uninhibited smile hanging on his face as leisurely as taking a stroll. Of course, because your master I am also a title Douluo. Ning Rongrong opened her mouth. And closed it again. Is battle between title Douluos this simple? She still wanted to ask more. However, forget it, she wouldn't ask, the focus right now was not this. She put all her attention back onto the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda in her palm. Looking left, looking right, turning an angle to look again. The light in her eyes was almost about to overflow. Really, really advanced. Her voice was as light as talking to herself. Her fingers gently stroked the surface of the pagoda, feeling warm and smooth like jade. Is this the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda? Her breathing grew rapid. The sect's millennial wish, actually truly realized in my hands. As she spoke, her voice trembled more and more. I want to go back and tell father. Tell Grandpa Ji Yu and Grandpa Sword. She abruptly stood up, her skirt stained with soil, but she didn't care at all. Clenching her fists with both hands, her eye sockets turned red, her speaking speed so fast she almost bit her words apart. The sect finally has a chance. A millennium, the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda that has been pursued since the first generation sect master, no one has ever achieved it. Her voice rose and lowered, rolling back and forth between excitement and agitation. Now I did it, I really did it. Tears surged out from her eye sockets. Not knowing whether it was agitation or joy, perhaps both, Ning Rongrong used both hands to continuously wipe the tear stains on her face, wiping the left side and then the right side, but the more she wiped, the more there were. Woo, I want to tell father, want to tell them. Crying and smiling at the same time, the expression on her small face was as chaotic as a knocked-over color palette. Yangqing stood 3 steps away behind her, silently waiting for her to vent her emotions. His gaze occasionally drifted toward the distant cliff wall in the surrounding environment, but in his mind, he was pondering whether his 99th rank spirit power seemed to have been unsealed. The next moment, it seemed to be the system responding to his thinking. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully making the first disciple Ning Rongrong, top talent completely supplemented, god becoming potential completely supplemented. Ding. Your limit Douluo strength is beginning to be unsealed. Ding. Congratulations to the host, the unsealing of your limit Douluo strength is complete, hoping you will continue to make persistent efforts next. Yangqing squinted and smiled, nodding. It seemed the blue silver emperor leg bone had actually been prepared for nothing. Although he did not show much excitement on the outside at this moment, inside he was also enthusiastically exploring the spirit power cultivation within his body as a 99th rank limit Douluo that had just been unsealed. It was indeed many times stronger than before, goodness knows how much. If Yangqing had to give an evaluation. Solid, absolutely solid. Just at this time when Yangqing's thoughts were wandering ahead, Ning Rongrong's emotions seemed to have finished venting, and her action of wiping away tears stopped. In a posture with her body sideways and back facing Yangqing, she suddenly, like an elf, hopped lightly, rotating her whole body to face Yangqing. A pair of large eyes, polished even more translucent and exquisite by tears, obediently raised her head to look at him. The tip of her nose was still a bit red, water droplets hung on her eyelashes, her lips were slightly pouted. The next moment, she stood on tiptoe. Her body leaned slightly forward. Chapter 65, Guardian Beast of Title Douluo level. Her lips leaned toward Yangqing's direction. Without hesitation, Yangqing reacted even faster than her. A palm precisely blocked the space between the two of them. Ning Rongrong kissed squarely onto Yangqing's palm. Her lips pressed against the skin of his palm, and a warm sensation transmitted through. Ning Rongrong's eyes rounded at that moment. Her mind went blank. Maintaining her tiptoe posture with her lips still pressed against Yangqing's palm, she froze in place. Yangqing looked at her with a deliberately expressionless and solemn face. Then that palm pushed forward slightly. Ning Rongrong was pushed back a few steps by the force. Hey. Yangqing's voice sounded, which was an utterly ordinary tone, but falling into Ning Rongrong's ears, it inexplicably carried a teasing undertone. What do you, this rebellious disciple, want to do? Your teacher only sells his skills, not his body, huh? Hearing these words, Ning Rongrong instantly froze in place as if struck by lightning. Then, starting from her ankles, a layer of visible crimson spread upward like a tide along the skin exposed outside her dress. Her calves, wrists, neck, cheeks, and earlobes. They all turned red. The ecstasy of the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda that had originally exploded in her mind was completely swallowed by another emotion at this moment. What did she just do? The joy of her spirit successfully advancing was too surging, and a millennium-long wish realized overnight. Gratitude and excitement muddled her head, and her first reaction was wanting to thank him, but not knowing how to thank him. Before her brain could process it, her body moved first. As a result, she was blocked. Blocked by a palm. The sense of shame was like boiling water poured over her head. And there was a trace of extremely faint loss, which she herself was unwilling to admit, mixed into that scorching blush, unspeakable and indescribable. Sigh. Yangqing's sigh sounded above her. His tone carried a regretful air that made people want to slap him. As expected, wherever your teacher goes, people love and flowers bloom for me. This damn charm. Ning Rongrong's brain was a mess of paste. However, my obedient disciple Rongrong. Yangqing touched his chin, his expression so solemn it begged to be beaten. Teacher only takes you as a disciple right now. Oh, if you really want to win such a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering, powerful, and handsome man like your teacher, you still have to keep working hard. This sentence was like a basin of ice water poured straight down from her head. Ning Rongrong's brain was forcibly dragged back to reality. Tears still hung in her reddened eye sockets, her face was hot enough to fry an egg, and that indescribable aura of shame, annoyance, and displeasure in her chest surged straight upward. She scanned all around. Then lowering her head, her gaze fell onto her own feet. Bending over, she yanked off the shoe from her right foot. Raising her hand. That exquisite cloth shoe embroidered with glazed tile patterns drew an arc, carrying 12 tenths of anger and flying straight toward Yangqing's face. Who likes you? Her voice was so sharp it cracked, reverberating back and forth in the mountain hollow above the ice and fire yin-yang well, spreading outward layer by layer. You stinky liar master, drop dead for this young lady. The rolling water mist trembled from this shout. In the distant forest, a patch of startled birds fluttered up, their calls scattering everywhere. Next, amid Ning Rongrong's state of overflowing shame and a somewhat stubborn temper ignoring him, Yangqing pulled Douluo out from the ground. And directly under Ning Rongrong's curious gaze that she still couldn't help casting, blue light emerged from his hand, beginning to cover Douluo's head to modify Douluo's memory. Yangqing felt that after all, it was he and the others who trespassed into someone else's territory, and killing the other party didn't feel right. But the other party occupied a treasured land like the ice and fire yin-yang well, and had seen the scene of Ning Rongrong's spirit advancing just now, so he definitely couldn't just leave it alone without handling it. Then what should he do? In his past life, Yangqing had read many fanfictions where people directly swept away and took all these immortal herbs. Yangqing was lazy and really didn't want to take them away. Moreover, if he took them, he was afraid he wouldn't store them well. What if the effect became poor? But he indeed wanted these immortal herbs for later use in taking disciples and boosting the potential of his disciples whose potential was insufficient. Therefore, after a little thought, Yangqing directly used the blue hand of the complete hands to modify Douluo's memory, removing all memories about Yangqing and Ningrongrong today, and then deleting all memories regarding the Douluo tulip. Then he planted a thought imprint, to properly protect all immortal herbs in this medicinal garden of the ice and fire yin yang well, and to forbid any other person and anything from harming and using these immortal herbs for any reason and motivation. For mere level 91 Douluo, casting this implicit thought imprint was still very easy for him. While casting the imprint, the corners of Yangqing's mouth curled into an arc, feeling that he was very witty. From then on, this patch of ice and fire yin yang well would be his exclusive treasured land for him to plunder at will. And it even had a titled Douluo level powerhouse guardian beast obtained for free to help him guard the treasured land. Isn't this simply the best of both worlds? After Douluo woke up, everything seemed just like when it started, and nothing had happened. Beside him, Ningrongrong curiously asked Yangqing what he was doing. Without turning his head, with the pale blue light on his palm still shrouding Douluo's head, Yangqing said, just making him forget some things, and then remember some things. Ningrongrong's expression froze for a moment. Forget some things, remember some things, what does that mean? She opened her mouth and hadn't had time to question further when Yangqing had already withdrawn his hand, turned around, and patted his palms. Seeing her half-confused and half-comprehending appearance, he chuckled and explained, making him forget that we came here today, and also the matter of your spirit advancing. Pausing for a moment. That way you also don't have to worry about the news of the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda transforming into the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda being leaked out. Ningrongrong was still digesting the first half, and as soon as the second half landed, the hesitation on her face was instantly replaced by joy. Can this even be done? This is another ability of your teacher's complete hand spirit ability. Yangqing shook his left hand. Awesome, right? Awesome, awesome, Ningrongrong subconsciously praised twice. Then her gaze swept to Yangqing's cocky deadpan look with the corners of his mouth upturned, her tone shifting as she curled her lips. No matter how awesome it is, you still won't teach me. How stingy. Yangqing chuckled. Good disciple, you haven't found a suitable next disciple for your teacher yet, nor have you practiced Fuhokim into the standard recognized and qualified by your teacher, so naturally I won't teach you the next step. As soon as his voice fell, his figure flashed and disappeared in place, appearing on the edge of the cliff above. A voice came from afar. Let's go. Ningrongrong stamped her feet in place, her figure flashing as she followed after him. Chapter 66, Interested in Changing Masters. The two left the ice and fire yin yang well and darted out to the periphery of the sunset forest. The time was still early, and the twilight had not yet fully settled. Yangqing paused in his steps and turned his head to look at her. Are you hungry? Do you want to eat something before going back? Ningrongrong's eyes darted around. I just happened to want to go take a look at Heaven-Do City. The atmosphere along the way was subtle. Ningrongrong was not necessarily still angry. The favor of Yangqing helping her spirit rank up was solidly there, and she knew it clearly in her heart. But every time the image of her leaning in to kiss him only to be blocked by his palm floated into her mind, her cheeks couldn't help but heat up. She couldn't bring herself to face it. Therefore, when chatting with Yangqing along the way, the prefix, stinky, was added to the words, fraud master. The two quickly hurried to Heaven-Do City. Ningrongrong flashed the identity token of the 7 treasure glazed tile school to enter the city, and brought Yangqing directly to the Heaven-Do Hotel. The moment the two stepped through the door, several tables of diners in the lobby raised their heads simultaneously. Then the air froze for a beat. Several middle-aged men had their chopsticks suspended midair, their gazes were first filled with disbelief, then confirmation, and finally, visible physical stiffness and discomfort. Seeing this, Yangqing appropriately made a playful wink beside her. Ningrongrong glared at him unhappily, but her tone was extremely proud. Who told this young miss to be so clever and intelligent? A middle-aged man resembling a manager practically jogged over, his face plastered with smiles. Miss Ning, long time no see, your esteemed presence is our hotel's honor. Would you like me to lead you to a private room? Ningrongrong's gaze swept across the lobby, where 2 tables of people were already tucking in their tails and preparing to sneak away. Her willow-like eyebrows arched up. What, are these fellows unhappy to eat together with this grand miss? In the past, she would have definitely gone over directly to cause trouble. But today was different. Today she was in a good mood. With a wave of her jade white, slender hand, when she spoke, her voice was uncharacteristically gentle like wind chimes. Today this young miss is happy. Everyone present here, all expenses are covered by this young miss. The manager froze. However, this young miss won't go to a private room. She slightly raised her chin, right here in the lobby, just help me find a good spot. The manager hesitated for a second, met Ningrongrong's displeased eyes, and nodded repeatedly. Yes, 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 Miss Ning, please follow me. Taking their seats. Ordering food. A table full of mountain delicacies and seafood were served like flowing water. Ningrongrong ate with restraint but not slowly, and Yangqing was even less polite, bowl after bowl. The remaining diners in the lobby breathed a sigh of relief, and the atmosphere gradually returned to normal. Meanwhile, on the bustling commercial street of Heaven-Do City, a luxuriously decorated yet low-key carriage was driving slowly. At this time, Qian Runshui was inspecting public sentiments and getting close to the common people in the city under the identity of Shui Qing, the crown prince of the Heaven-Do Empire, to consolidate her wise crown prince image of being refined, courteous, and loving the people like her own children. Right at this moment, the carriage slowly stopped. From outside the carriage window came a low and respectful call. Your Highness, there is intelligence to report. Qian Runshui furrowed her brows slightly and lifted a corner of the carriage curtain. Waiting outside was her trusted confidant and spy planted at the city gate. Speak. Qian Runshui's voice was warm and calm. That spy lowered his voice and quickly reported. Reporting to your Highness, a quarter of an hour ago, Ms. Ningrongrong of the 7 treasure glazed tile school held the sect token, passed the city gate inspection, and has already entered Heaven-Do City. Currently, she is dining in the lobby of the Heaven-Do Hotel with a young man of unknown identity. Rongrong is back. A trace of surprise flashed through Qian Runshui's eyes. She naturally knew that some time ago, because Ningrongrong threw a tantrum with Ning Fengji, she deliberately ran off to the Ballad Kingdom subordinate to the Heaven-Do Empire, reportedly studying in an obscure academy called Shrek. How could it be that not long after, she suddenly returned to Heaven-Do City? Moreover, she even brought along a young man of unknown identity. As the proud disciple of Ning Fengji, Qian Runshui deeply knew that the 7 treasure glazed tile school played a crucial role in her future usurpation of the Heaven-Do imperial throne. And Ningrongrong, as Ning Fengji's only apple of his eye, was an even more important bond maintaining the relationship between both sides. Returning to the imperial capital suddenly at this time, could it be that the 7 treasure glazed tile school has some new movements? Or is her master plotting something in secret? Qian Runshui's thoughts spun rapidly. Whether out of the Crown Prince's hospitality and respect for talent, or to consolidate the relationship with the 7 treasure glazed tile school, she had to go meet her. Go, prepare an exquisite rejuvenation warm jade as a greeting gift. Qian Runshui put down the carriage curtain, her voice returning to that consistent gentleness and composure. Prepare the carriage for the Heaven Do Hotel. Since Rongrong has returned to the city, Ji Yu, acting as her senior martial brother, should go see her both in terms of emotion and propriety. Inside the Heaven Do Hotel, the table was already filled with exquisite spirit beast meat dishes and fine wine. Yangqing and Ning Rongrong were halfway through their meal. A burst of footsteps came from beside their ears. Unhurried and unforced, calm and measured. Rongrong, why didn't you tell this elder brother when you returned to Heaven Do City, so that this elder brother could properly host you? The voice was warm like jade. Ning Rongrong raised her head, hesitated for a split second, and then recognized the person. Crown Prince brother. The newcomer wore a moon-white brocade robe, light golden long hair tied back behind his head, and azure eyes carried just the right amount of gentle smile. His facial features were refined and handsome, and his temperament was gentle and scholarly. The Crown Prince of the Heaven Do Empire, Shui Qing. I heard Rongrong went to the Ballad Kingdom to study. Why did you suddenly return? How are things over there? Does this elder brother need to support you with anything? Ning Rongrong's posture was much more proper than before. She executed a half bow, and her tone was gentle. Thank you for your concern, Crown Prince brother. Rongrong just came back. Things over there were all right, and that academy is quite interesting. She politely declined the support. Shui Qing, disguised by Qian Runshui, smiled and nodded. Then this elder brother will treat Rongrong to this meal. Ning Rongrong feigned hesitation, and while agreeing, a trace of slyness flashed in the depths of her eyes. It's hard to refuse Crown Prince brother's kindness, but I just promised to treat everyone present. Is Crown Prince brother willing as well? Qian Runshui laughed helplessly. Rongrong, you really still have this temperament, haha, with just this bit of money, you can't scam this elder brother. The pleasantries ending here, Qian Runshui's gaze naturally shifted toward the young man next to her who hadn't spoken from beginning to end, yet kept staring at her. Who is this? Rongrong, won't you introduce him? Ning Rongrong collected herself, a trace of unnoticeable pride and complacency in her tone. This is my master, Yangqing. He is the one who brought me back from the Ballad Kingdom this time. Qian Runshui's eyebrows twitched slightly. Master. Keeping her composure, she maintained the demeanor proper for a crown prince and cupped her hands. I am Shui Qing, the crown prince of the Heaven Do Empire. Greetings, brother Yang. Yangqing nodded with a smile. But his gaze fell on Shui Qing's face, and his expression inside was a bit odd. He naturally knew Shui Qing, no, or rather, he knew Qian Runshui beneath this mask of Shui Qing. This trip of his here was truly just intended to help Ning Rongrong rank up her spirit. He had no intention of asking for trouble or creating complications. After all, he was a bit lazy. But now Qian Runshui delivered herself right to his doorstep. Yangqing instantly made a decision in his heart, and the next moment. Nice to meet you. Yangqing's tone was relaxed. My name is Yangqing, Ning Rongrong's master. Being looked at by Yangqing, just a single glance of eye contact, she felt as if she had been seen through. This feeling was very strange, but she still suppressed this emotion, and just as she was about to take out the greeting gift prepared in advance for Ning Rongrong from her sleeve, Yangqing's voice suddenly sounded. By the way, does your highness the crown prince have a master? Qian Runshui's movement stopped, and her brows knitted slightly. Asking me. When she looked toward Yangqing, she had already recovered a proper smile. Yes, it is precisely Rongrong's father, schoolmaster Ning. Pausing for a beat, she added, why does brother Yang ask this? Yangqing shook his head solemnly, didn't answer that question, and instead nodded earnestly, saying, are you interested in changing masters? Chapter 67, you signed the wrong name, not this one, sign it again. The air fell silent for a second. Qian Runshui froze entirely. She maintained Shui Qinghe's gentle and refined mask, but the smile at the corner of her lips stiffened for a fraction of a second. Her gaze involuntarily swept toward Ning Rongrong before pulling back. She chuckled awkwardly a few times. Brother Yang, you certainly know how to joke. If I were to truly agree, I'm afraid my imperial father would chase me off the crown prince throne shortly after, and I'd incur the hatred of the 7 treasure glazed tile school as well. Sitting to the side, Ning Rongrong almost choked on the dessert in her mouth. This unreliable, stinking swindler of a master, poaching her own biological father's corner right in front of her. Her teeth itched with anger, but with an outsider present, it was hard to throw a tantrum. She forced out a smile and looked at Shui Qing. Crown Prince brother, you don't need to mind my master, he might be drunk. If you don't have anything else to do, then, please go on with your business. Seizing the opportunity to step down smoothly, Qian Runshui left behind a gift and politely took her leave amidst Yangqing's somewhat regretful gaze. The person was gone. Ning Rongrong didn't fly into a sudden rage as expected. She forked a piece of pastry, shoved it into her mouth, chewed twice, and tilted her head to look at Yangqing. How come you wanted to take Shui Qing as a disciple the very first time you met him? After a pause, she negated herself. That shouldn't be the case. Stinking swindler master, you are a titled Douluo, would you even care about the status of a crown prince? Wealth, as this young lady's not enough. Status, the moment you flash your spirit rings, who wouldn't treat you as an honored guest? Just a mere crown prince, is it really worth it? Yangqing shook his head and smiled with narrowed eyes. I just feel that he has a great aura. It fits my disciple's aura. He looked at Ning Rongrong. Just like when master first laid eyes on you, my obedient disciple Rongrong, it was your aura that let master see at a glance that you were destined in this lifetime to be master's disciple. Ning Rongrong rolled her eyes. Shameless. After the meal, Ning Rongrong told Yangqing about her considerations. She would temporarily not return to the 7 treasure glazed tile school, and would instead return to Shrek Academy first. The 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda was already in her hands and couldn't run away. If she went back now and was discovered by her father, she feared she would never be able to come out again. Yangqing nodded. Ning Rongrong was waiting for him to lead her off. I'm tired. Yangqing unexpectedly yawned. It's getting late too. Let's rest for the night and go back tomorrow morning. A titled Douluo can get sleepy too. Ning Rongrong asked doubtfully. Yangqing smiled very naturally and without a trace of acting as he nodded seriously. Then will tomorrow be too late? Ning Rongrong hesitated. To be honest, she was also a little tired. Yangqing made an okay hand gesture. Your master here has grown stronger once again, completely no problem. Ning Rongrong didn't understand that gesture, but she understood his meaning. Nodding, the two of them settled their subsequent itinerary just like that. Then, led by Ning Rongrong, the two of them booked 2 top-tier suites in a luxury hotel in Heaven Do City and stayed there. On the other side. Returning to the Crown Prince Palace, Qian Runshui dismissed everyone and sat alone in the chair behind the desk. Her fingertips subconsciously tapped on the tabletop. When did Ning Rongrong get an unknown master from who knows where? In the eyes of ordinary people, this matter might be trivial. But sitting in her position, the implications were completely different. The 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School was her biggest bargaining chip for ascending the throne. Ning Fengji was her teacher, and the connection between the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School and the Heaven Do Imperial family was maintained and managed by her single-handedly. Now a stranger with a bizarre personality and unbridled speech suddenly popped up by Ning Rongrong's side. What was hidden behind this? Was the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School laying out a new sphere of influence? Or were they preparing for some unmentionable matters? Whichever possibility it was, lack of transparency toward her meant that the support she received wasn't absolute. Qian Runshui made her decision. On the surface, tomorrow she would visit Ning Fengji under the pretext of seeking academic guidance to sound him out. Behind the scenes, she would send people to investigate. She was just about to open her mouth to call someone. There's no need to investigate. A voice came from the darkness ahead. A lazy, smiling voice that felt somewhat familiar yet strange to her. I've come myself. Qian Runshui's body froze for an instant. The next moment, her pupils abruptly shrank, and a chill poured out from the depths of her eyes as she stared dead at the unlit shadow opposite her desk. A figure walked out step by step from the darkness. The outline gradually became clear. Black hair, blue and white martial attire, that mediocre face that made people unable to remember it yet felt inexplicably comfortable. Yangqing. He was looking at her with a beaming smile. Seeing clearly who had come, Qian Runshui quickly retracted the cold light in her eyes and pulled a gentle arc at the corners of her mouth. She stood up, still maintaining the demeanor of Shui Qing, the first prince of the Heaven Do Empire. Brother Yang, you are Rongrong's master, coming to my eastern palace in the middle of the night, what business do you have here? Yangqing did not exchange pleasantries. He took a step forward, his shoe soles colliding with the cyan brick floor with a muffled sound. This single step directly spanned the distance of the desk, stopping right in front of Qian Runshui. He narrowed his eyes with a straight face, a smile hanging on his face. Earlier at the hotel, I said I would take you as a disciple, but it didn't work out then. Now I've come specifically to take you as my disciple. Hundreds of dark speculations instantly flashed through Qian Runshui's mind. Spy, assassin, probe. She never expected the other party to give such an answer. She shook her head with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Brother Yang, stop joking. I already said before, I already have a teacher. Taking a step back, even if I didn't have a teacher, Brother Yang, your age is similar to mine, so it wouldn't be appropriate for you to be my master. Yangqing shook his head. None of these are issues, as long as you, Crown Prince, are willing to take me as your master. Qian Runshui's expression turned completely cold. The gentle mask faded, and the dignity belonging to the Crown Prince was revealed. Brother Yang, please leave immediately. If you don't go, don't blame me for disregarding Rongrong's feelings. She raised her right hand and waved it fiercely in midair. From the shadows in the corner of the study, a figure instantly darted out. A Spirit Emperor Shadow Guard of the Heaven Do Empire appeared, spirit power surging around his body as he lunged straight at Yangqing, intending to forcibly expel him. Yangqing stood in place without moving. The smile on his face didn't diminish by a single fraction. Swish. The first yellow spirit ring rose from beneath his feet. Swish. The second yellow spirit ring followed closely behind. The Shadow Guard's movements did not pause, and Qian Runshui merely watched with cold eyes. A 2-ring spirit grandmaster running amok in the Eastern Palace was simply courting death. Immediately following that. Purple, purple, black, 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 black. The speed at which the spirit rings rose was extremely fast. The lights flickered alternately, illuminating the dim study in colorful hues. When the 8th black spirit ring surfaced, the indifference on Qian Runshui's face stiffened. Solemnity and shock crept onto her brow. A spirit Douluo of this age. She thought it was over and was just about to open her mouth to suppress the other party using the foundation of the Heaven Do Empire. The light beneath Yangqing's feet changed once again. Red. A dazzling blood red light erupted fiercely. The entire study was dyed into a deep crimson. The 9th spirit ring completely surfaced, slowly fluctuating. A terrifying pressure instantly filled the entire space. Qian Runshui's body uncontrollably retreated 3 steps. Her lower back hit the edge of the desk. Her eyes widened, staring fixedly at that red spirit ring, her lips moving slightly as she muttered to herself. A titled Douluo, a 100,000-year spirit ring, how is that possible? That Spirit Emperor Shadow Guard who was about to touch the corner of Yangqing's clothes abruptly stopped in midair. Both of his feet landed on the ground, completely stiffening in place. He didn't dare to move at all. Cold sweat instantly soaked his back, dripping down his chin. He was terrified that this titled Douluo, your eminence radiating a terrifying aura of death, would casually wave a hand and pat him into meat paste. The study was dead silent. There was only the humming sound of the spirit rings fluctuating. Yangqing looked at Qian Runshui with a beaming smile. Crown Prince, are you willing to be my disciple now? Qian Runshui took a deep breath. Sensing that Yangqing truly did not release any killing intent, she turned her head, glanced at the shadow guard beside her who was so frightened he was holding his breath, and raised her hand to wave it. Withdraw. The shadow guard scrambled back into the shadows and disappeared. Qian Runshui tidied her lapels, cupped her hands together, and bowed deeply to Yangqing. Qing greets your eminence. I do not know which title your eminence is present. Since your eminence has come here in the middle of the night, could it be that Qing has done something wrong somewhere and angered your eminence? Yangqing shook his head. He did not answer Qian Runshui's question. He turned around, his gaze sweeping across the study, and walked over to a gold-gilded and jade-inlaid Grand Master chair nearby, sitting down in an imposing, domineering posture. Qian Runshui's gaze closely followed him, full of doubt. Yangqing reached into his robe and skillfully pulled out a few things. A roll of yellowed straw paper, an old and worn writing brush, and a pad of red ink paste. He casually placed these things on the luxurious desk beside him made of some unknown expensive wood. Tonight, I am truly here to take you as my disciple. Qian Runshui's brows were tightly knitted together. She completely failed to understand the current situation before her. A titled Douluo, an unrivaled powerhouse possessing a 100,000-year spirit ring. Clearly being Ning Rongrong's master, yet saying at the Heaven Do Grand Hotel that he wanted to take her as a disciple. She had refused, and now he appeared in her eastern palace once again, still wanting to take her as a disciple. Why on earth was this person so obsessed with taking her as a disciple? What traps were hidden on that old straw paper contract? What ulterior motives did this person have toward the Heaven Do imperial family? Could it be someone sent from her mother's side? Or had some hidden force detected her true identity and deliberately come to test her? Various thoughts fiercely collided in Qian Runshui's mind. She weighed the pros and cons, calculating the gains and losses. In the end, she came to a conclusion. Regardless of the other party's purpose, facing a titled Douluo with a 100,000-year spirit ring, she currently had no room for refusal whatsoever. Her only choice was to sign this contract. Qian Runshui closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, her eyes left only helplessness and obedience. Since it is the will of your eminence the titled Douluo to take Qing as a disciple, Qing has no choice but to comply. She strode to the desk, extending her right hand, her thumb pressed heavily onto the red ink paste, and then pressed onto the lower right corner of that roll of straw paper, leaving a clear red ink fingerprint. Then, she picked up that writing brush. The brush tip hovered over the paper surface. Her wrist turned, her brush flying like a dragon or snake, rapidly writing down her name. The first character. Shui. She was just about to write the second character. A hand reached over, gently pressing down on the back of her hand that was holding the brush. Yang Xing's voice came from the side, ethereal in tone. You signed the wrong name, not this one, sign it again. Chapter 68, Tearing Off the Facade. Qian Runshui's posture as she dropped her pen completely stiffened. That writing brush hovered above the paper, its tip less than 3 inches away from the rough paper, yet it could no longer fall. A bone-chilling coldness, something she had never experienced since birth, instantly permeated her entire body. How is that possible? How could this person possibly know her true identity? Qian Runshui's brain fell into a brief blankness at this moment. She had lurked in the Heaven Do Empire for more than 10 years, seeing countless people during that time, including powerhouses at the titled Douluo level, and no one had ever seen through her disguise. Even those members of the Heaven Do imperial family who spent day and night with Shui Qing for many years had never doubted her identity in the slightest. Yet the mysterious titled Douluo who suddenly popped up before her eyes called out her real name just by meeting her once. Is it someone sent by Grandpa's side? No, Grandpa wouldn't use this method. Is it Mother? Even more impossible. Qian Runshui stiffly raised her head, meeting Yang Xing's still gentle, smiling eyes. At this moment, those eyes falling into her eyes were as unfathomable as an abyss, as if they could see through all her disguises. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something. I am not someone from your spirit hall, Yang Xing's voice sounded unhurriedly, nor am I sent by your mother and grandfather, rest assured. The words that had just rushed to Qian Runshui's throat were choked back. She laughed awkwardly, trying hard to maintain Shui Qinghei's persona. Haha, your excellency is joking. What wrong signature, spirit hall, grandfather, mother? Her voice tried hard to remain steady. My grandfather is the Grand Emperor of the Heaven Do Empire, and he passed away long ago. It is also impossible for my mother to send someone to look for me. Please retain a little basic respect for our Heaven Do imperial family. Yang Xing raised his eyebrows, the smile on his face deepening a bit more. Is that so? He didn't continue to expose her, just waved his hand. These are not important. When you sign, just sign the 3 characters Qian Runshui. Qian Runshui's pupils contracted slightly. She took a deep breath, her brain spinning rapidly. So your excellency wants to take someone named Qian Runshui as a disciple. Her tone recovered a bit of calmness. Then I can sign on behalf, but signing on behalf is useless, right? After all, I am not Qian Runshui. Yang Xing gave a faint, oh, looking thoughtful. But immediately after, he repeated what he just said. You can just sign the name Qian Runshui. The tone was plain, yet it exuded an unquestionable flavor. Qian Runshui's expression completely turned uncertain and shifting. Her fingers trembled slightly in her sleeves, and heaven and man were warring in her heart. Should she summon Snakeland's Douluo? Among the 2 titled Douluo guards arranged by her grandfather beside her, the one on duty during this period was Snakeland's Douluo Shilong. With the strength of Snakeland's Douluo as a 92nd level titled Douluo, if he suddenly launched a sneak attack, would it be possible to kill the mysterious powerhouse with a 100,000-year spirit ring right in front of her? Qian Runshui quickly evaluated. From the current situation, the other party didn't seem to have discovered the more deeply hidden Snakeland's Douluo. If Snakeland's Douluo suddenly made a move, perhaps there really would be a chance. But the risk was too great. Once she failed, her identity hidden for more than 10 years would be completely exposed. Moreover, judging from the strength the other party showed just now, the possibility of a successful sneak attack. Just as Qian Runshui was hesitating, Yang Xing's voice sounded again. Are you hesitating about that deeply hidden old fellow? He looked at Qian Runshui with a smile, his tone as relaxed as chatting about the weather. Qian Runshui's body suddenly stiffened. He even discovered Snakeland's Douluo. She instantly understood that all her trump cards had been seen through by the other party. Since that was the case, today's matter could not end well no matter what. Even if she signed the so-called master-disciple contract now, her infiltration plan would always have a bomb buried in it that could detonate at any time. The hesitation in Qian Runshui's eyes disappeared, replaced by coldness and ruthlessness. Then let me see, she muttered to herself, her voice so low that almost only she could hear, whether you really have the qualifications to take me, Qian Runshui, as a disciple. She decisively made a special gesture in her hands within a split second. In the dark, Snakeland's Douluo Shilong had been waiting for a long time. 9 spirit rings suddenly exploded from beneath his feet, yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 black. The spirit power pressure of the titled Douluo level instantly enveloped the entire study, the air seemed to solidify into substance, and the blue stone floor cracked into dense lines under this pressure. Snakeland's Douluo's spirit, the cyan purple snake lance, appeared in his hand, the shaft gleaming with a chilling cyan purple luster, and toxic mist lingered at the tip of the lance. He was like a black lightning bolt, piercing through the air from behind Yang Xing. The piercing screech of the lance tip tearing through the air was extremely harsh, stabbing straight at Yang Xing's waist vitals. This blow had been premeditated for a long time. The angle of Snakeland's Douluo's attack was extremely tricky, and the chosen timing was precisely the moment when Qian Runshui was talking with Yang Xing and Yang Xing's attention was diverted. This was a sneak attack at the titled Douluo level. Even if they were titled Douluos themselves, they would very likely be seriously injured under such an unprepared situation. Qian Runshui held her breath nervously, her hands clenching her skirt hem tightly. However, the next moment, Yang Xing's figure swayed slightly to the side. The tip of the cyan purple snake lance brushed almost against the corner of his clothes, not even touching a fraction of the fabric. Terror flashed in Snakeland's Douluo's eyes. He instantly realized something was wrong and was about to withdraw his lance to retreat. But it was already too late. A hand stretched out, its 5 fingers slightly curled, precisely gripping the shaft of the snake lance. Come over. Snakeland's Douluo only heard this sentence by his ear, and the next instant felt a terrifying pulling force coming from his hand, pulling his whole body uncontrollably toward the front. Then, almost instantly changing, Yongxing's right hand had moved from the snake lance to the top of snake lance Douluo's head. The movement was casual, as if he just pressed down casually. But immediately after, boom, a muffled sound. Snake lance Douluo's entire body was pressed by the head and violently smashed toward the ground. Blood plasma burst out. The bluestone floor burst open under this force, and spiderweb-like cracks instantly spread for several meters. Dust and smoke rose everywhere, and gravel splashed. When the dust cleared, Snake Lance Douluo was already limp on the ground covered in blood, his head deeply embedded in the shattered floor tiles, the light of the 9 spirit rings dimming and gradually dissipating, completely losing combat effectiveness. The whole process took no more than 3 seconds. A battle between powerhouses of the titled Douluo level ended just like that. To think she had previously worried that the commotion of the battle between the two would be too big and attract other people's attention. As a result, from Snake Lance Douluo launching a sneak attack, to Yongxing dodging to the side, and then pressing his head to smash the ground. Smooth as flowing water, accomplished in one go. Snake Lance Douluo actually couldn't even last 3 seconds. Qian Runshui was completely dumbfounded. She looked at the incapacitated Snake Lance Douluo on the ground with eyes full of shock and incomprehension. This was a numbered powerhouse in Spirit Hall, sent by grandfather to protect herself, alternating with Porcupinefish Douluo, an exalted powerhouse at the titled Douluo level. How could he be so easily defeated by the person in front of her without even using a spirit ability or a spirit ring, directly pressed by the head and smashed to the ground? Knocked out just like that. Could the floor of her East Palace be some kind of divine stone material that even titled Douluo Your Excellency couldn't withstand? Or did it have some special hypnotic sleep aid effect? How come she didn't know after staying here for so many years? Yongxing patted his hands, looking at Qian Runshui who was close at hand, his finger pointing at the master-disciple contract on the table in front of him, his tone remaining gentle. Are there any other doubts? If no doubts, sign it. Chapter 69, Do You Want Immortality? Qian Runshui remained silent for a long time, and finally, stroke by stroke, she signed the 3 characters of Qian Runshui on Yongxing's master-disciple contract, exerting force with every single stroke as if she were carving characters into the flesh and blood of an enemy. After signing, she put away the writing brush, shuffled her steps backward, and retreated a few paces. Yongxing picked up that master-disciple contract. His brows furrowed as he flipped the rough paper back and forth, his gaze sweeping back and forth between the paper surface and Qian Runshui. Qian Runshui stood at the edge of the shadows, her gaze suspicious. She waited for the next move of this mysterious titled Douluo before her. After looking at it for a moment, Yongxing casually crumpled the rough paper into a ball and threw it on the ground. He reached into his robes, groped for a moment, and pulled out a brand new piece of rough paper. The same material, the same standard format. He patted the new contract onto the desk, his fingertips tapping the paper surface. Sign it again. The corners of Qian Runshui's mouth twitched twice. Looking at that standard contract that looked as if it came in wholesale bulk, a glimmer of realization suddenly arose in her heart. This practiced action of pulling out paper, this casual attitude. This person was definitely not doing this kind of thing for the first time. Ning Rongrong suddenly acquiring a master perhaps didn't involve any secret plotting by the 7 treasure glazed tile school at all, nor was there any hidden ambition. It was purely a whim of this titled excellency before her, forcibly taking a disciple using an equally absurd method. Qian Runshui suppressed the sense of strangeness in her heart. She stepped forward, maintaining Shui Qinghei's refined and courteous posture, and responded. Qing respectfully obeys the wishes of the titled excellency. She raised her hand, just about to pick up the writing brush on the table. Stop, Yongxing's voice rang out. Qian Runshui's movements paused, and she looked at Yongxing with a puzzled gaze. Remove your disguise. Yongxing leaned against the back of the Grandmaster chair, propping his chin with one hand, reveal your true appearance before signing. Qian Runshui froze in place. She gave a bitter smile, and spirit power surged around her body. Her bones emitted faint popping sounds, and her figure rapidly shrank and became slender. Her light golden short hair grew rapidly, transforming into waterfall like long hair draped over her shoulders. Her azure eyes faded of gentleness, replaced by a touch of aloofness and nobility. Her skin surpassed snow, her bridge of the nose was straight, and her peerless appearance was revealed in the dim study. She stood by the table, her peripheral vision covertly appraising Yongxing. She had absolute confidence in her appearance. This person knew her true identity and forced her to become a disciple. Could taking her as a disciple be just a facade, and his true purpose was to covet her beauty? Yongxing looked at Qian Runshui's true appearance and grinned. His gaze was open and above board, looking Qian Runshui up and down, his eyes filled with pure appreciation. As expected of my disciple. Yongxing nodded, without a shred of evasion in his tone, you are simply gorgeous. The sense of strangeness in Qian Runshui's heart grew even stronger. The other party's words were straightforward and without any burden, yet his gaze was clear, seemingly as if he were truly just purely praising her beauty without any lewd or evil intentions. She took the initiative to step forward, pick up the writing brush, and signed the 3 characters of Qian Runshui on the new contract. Dipping her thumb in red ink paste, she heavily pressed it onto the lower right corner of the paper page. She picked up the contract with both hands and handed it to Yongxing. Titled Excellency, Shui has already finished signing. Please review it. The light in her eyes flickered slightly, and she changed how she referred to herself to show closeness, knowing when to submit and when to act. As for her true inner thoughts, well, that remained unknown. Yongxing nodded and took the contract. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds passed. Yongxing sat in the chair, his ears pricked up. No sound rang out in his mind. There was no system prompt tone. The smile on Yongxing's face faded, and his expression fell into thought. Previously, Qian Runshui signing the master-disciple contract disguised as Shui Qing was not feasible. Now, removing the disguise, revealing her true appearance, and signing her real name was still not feasible. This meant that the disciple taking judged by the system was definitely not as simple as a verbal contract recognition between the two. He had guessed previously. With his own strength as a limit Douluo, coupled with complete hands' ability to modify memories, taking disciples in the future would be simply as easy as turning over his hand. Even if he rushed into Spirit City right now, forcibly pinned the current Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong to the ground to modify her memories, and took her as a disciple, perhaps he could also pull it off after a fierce battle between them. Therefore, the system's custom spirit ability itself actually conflicted with the disciple-taking mission. As long as the first disciple-taking succeeded, afterward customizing any of the 3 methods, hypnotism, arbitrarily tampering with others' memories like him, or gaining powerful strength capable of threatening others, subsequent disciple-taking would become completely meaningless. Could the system only do a one-time deal? Clearly, that was not very reasonable. And now Tian Runshui's signature verified his worries. The disciple taking judged by the system probably had to be a true sense, heartfelt, and pure acknowledgement of a master. The reason why he hadn't directly used complete hands to modify the memories of those disciple candidates in Shrek Academy and bundled them all up to take as disciples was precisely because he held the mindset at the time of better safe than sorry in case such disciple taking failed. Candidates on Douluo continent who could meet the system's requirements were already scarce to begin with. If the method of modifying memories was judged invalid by the system, that would be equivalent to wasting an exceptional resource in vain. Moreover, anyway, possessing titled Douluo cultivation plus the 8 extraordinary techniques, almost no one on the present Douluo continent could threaten him, and he could live for so long, so he had never been in a rush to take a large number of suitable disciples. Although there probably weren't a large number of suitable disciples to begin with. Today's military threat plus signature towards Tian Runshui was both a test and a genuine desire to take her as a disciple while taking the opportunity. But the result was very clear. It failed. The conditions were definitely insufficient. This kind of fake apprenticeship where Tian Runshui was forcibly made to acknowledge a master was not recognized by the system. Therefore, he had now thought of two solutions. One was to make Tian Runshui genuinely acknowledge him as her master, just like Ning Rongrong back then. Or try to see if, under the condition that the two parties not only reached a verbal reality but also completed the reality of a master imparting knowledge and teaching skills, whether this disciple could be successfully taken. Yangqing quickly made a decision in his heart. Adopt a two-pronged approach. Strive to make Tian Runshui genuinely acknowledge her master while simultaneously imparting abilities. If all this failed, then he would just consider tonight a wasted trip, directly use complete hands to wipe away Tian Runshui's memories of tonight, and walk away scot-free. Either way, it wouldn't have any impact on him. Tian Runshui stood to one side. She watched Yangqing holding that contract, his brows tightly locked, his expression bizarre, pulling faces from time to time, and her doubts grew deeper in her heart. But she didn't voice any questions, only standing with a respectful posture. Yangqing raised his head, his gaze falling once more upon Tian Runshui. Aren't you sincere? Tian Runshui was stunned for a moment, and then the corners of her mouth twitching involuntarily. She lowered her head, her tone carrying a bit of awkwardness and helplessness. Shui doesn't understand what your excellency is saying. Yangqing shook his head without giving much explanation. He looked straight into Tian Runshui's bright, aloof big eyes. His gaze seemed to pierce through her shell, seeing the desires in the deepest recesses of her heart. Do you want immortality? Yangqing spoke indifferently. Chapter 70, choose one between 6 storehouses thief and complete hands. Tian Runshui froze, wondering if she had misheard. She raised her head. What? A titled Douluo's lifespan is at most a few hundred years, Yangqing said in a calm tone, as if recounting a trivial matter. But if you take me as your master, I can let you live for thousands or tens of thousands of years. Tian Runshui's pupils shrank violently. Before she could digest this sentence, Yangqing threw out a second temptation. Or, do you want to gain your mother's love, perfectly replace the Heaven Do Empire, and ascend to the throne you dream of? Tian Runshui's breathing stagnated. I genuinely want to take you as my disciple, Yangqing leaned forward. I have 2 spirit abilities that I can impart to you to help you achieve all your goals. Come over. Yangqing beckoned. Caught between skepticism and not daring to disobey, Tian Runshui approached Yangqing with obvious tension and deep-seated, heavy vigilance hidden in the depths of her eyes. It felt as if the moment Yangqing made any inappropriate move, she would fight to the death even knowing she was no match for him. Yangqing naturally perceived her thoughts, but acted as if he heard nothing. He calmly raised his right hand, extended his index finger, and pressed it against Tian Runshui's smooth forehead. A light blue glow flickered at his fingertips. The information of the 6 storehouses thief in the blue hand of complete hands poured directly into Tian Runshui's mind through his fingertips. Boom. Tian Runshui only felt a loud noise echo in her mind. A majestic, vast torrent of information exuding an infinite aura of mystery instantly exploded. The first to emerge was the ultimate technique for physical tempering, the 6 storehouses thief. This spirit ability completely subverted the tradition of spirit masters on the Douluo continent relying on meditation to absorb spirit power. Taking the major components within the human body as its core, it constructed a nearly perfect energy and spirit power conversion system inside the body. Whether it was daily food, the thin spirit power in the air, or the natural vitality between heaven and earth, once ingested into the body, it would be instantly and thoroughly decomposed into the purest, most primordial spirit power and vitality. Under this continuous, perfect nourishment, the user's cells would always remain at their peak active state, thereby delaying aging and even reaching the realm of an immortal physical body. Not only that, when the spirit ability was operating, the user's body temperature, scent, spirit power fluctuations, and even life aura would completely disappear, blending seamlessly with the surrounding natural environment, making it a supreme stealth technique. Once the body was injured, it could forcibly plunder the vitality in the surrounding environment to achieve the terrifying regenerative effect of instantly regrowing severed limbs. Even the gentle energy overflowing during its operation could help companions nearby recover stamina and spirit power. Before Tian Runshui could wake up from the shock and confusion brought by this spirit ability, another bizarre and massive torrent of information exploded right after. That was the ultimate mystery regarding soul and mental control, the information of the blue hand of complete hands. In this part of the information, the structure of the soul was bared and dissected, turning into a primordial ball of light intertwined with countless mental threads. And that blue light representing soul control possessed unimaginable authority. It could read any spirit master's memory without reservation, just like flipping through a book, and it could also precisely delete and modify a spirit master's cognition, just like cutting fabric. This modification was permanent and almost undetectable at the memory level, allowing a person to develop absolute loyalty and obedience to the caster without being aware of it. On the Douluo continent, even mental attribute spirit masters who excelled in mental systems would at most create illusions or mental deterrence with their spirit power skills, whereas this method directly reshaped a person's self and soul from the root. Soon, the infusion of the torrent of information slowly stopped. Absorbing and refining vitality, a mortal body, reading memories, modifying cognition, and manipulating souls. Tian Runshui stood frozen on the spot, falling into a long silence. When she finally recovered her wits and her vision refocused on Yangqing in front of her, her body instinctively retreated 3 steps backward. From her perspective, Yangqing sitting in the grand armchair was no longer that powerful titled Douluo. He was more like an indescribable fiend who could arbitrarily distort others' memories and manipulate other people's lives. The 6 storehouses thief had its sequelae removed by the system, purely absorbing the vital energy of all living things to supplement life force and achieve the goal of longevity. Although this ability was domineering, it was still within Tian Runshui's scope of understanding. But the blue hand of complete hands, controlling souls and modifying memories, completely exceeded the common sense of the spirit master's world, exuding a spine-chilling evil. Yangqing looked at the fear in the depths of Tian Runshui's eyes, his smile unchanged as usual without the slightest bit of difference. Don't be afraid, his voice was gentle, carrying a bewitching flavor. Today, as long as you choose one ability you want to learn, and then sincerely take me as your master, nothing will happen. Qian Runshui clenched her fists tightly, her nails sinking into her palms. The 6 storehouses thief can allow you to still have infinite time to cultivate and boundless hope even if your cultivation stops progressing in the future. Yang Xing's demonic whispers echoed in the study. As for complete hands, it can easily resolve your current predicament. It will make your position as the Heaven Do Grand Prince sit more securely and make lurking in the Heaven Do Empire much easier. Even in the future when you grow stronger, modifying your mother's memory so that she loves you from beginning to end is not impossible. Qian Runshui was tempted. She was truly tempted. Both, she wanted them. Longevity, who wouldn't want it? She knew that her spirit was the god-bestowed seraphim, and her chances of becoming a god were far greater than those of ordinary people. But who could guarantee 100% that they could gain the favor of the angel god? If she couldn't become a god, even if she ultimately had the chance to achieve a 99th rank limit Douluo, she still couldn't escape the ending of turning to ashes a few hundred years later. But with the 6 storehouses thief, even if she couldn't open the god trials, she would have enough time to rely on herself to cultivate past level 100 and become a god. More crucially, Qian Douluo. Her feelings for her grandfather, Qian Douluo, were very complex. It was the only place she had ever felt love from childhood until now. Only, being clever and articulate since childhood, she also knew that this love contained a certain higher expectation. But even if it wasn't pure enough, it still caused Qian Runshui, who was extremely lacking in love, to develop an incomparably deep affection for him. It had been a long time since Qian Douluo became a titled Douluo. This also meant that Qian Daluo's age was very advanced. Even if a titled Douluo's cultivation reached the heavens, their lifespan was only a mere few hundred years. If she obtained the 6 storehouses thief and then taught it to her grandfather, according to the description of the spirit ability of the 6 storehouses thief, it could adjust the body to the most perfect loop state and maintain it at all times. This meant that her grandfather could forever remain at the absolute peak of his strength, and Spirit Hall wouldn't be completely snatched away by that woman. Most importantly, wouldn't she be able to let her grandfather live on forever? For Qian Runshui, who craved family affection and power, this was an irresistible temptation. And besides the 6 storehouses thief, complete hands was even more the key to solving all her current dilemmas. Controlling souls, modifying memories. With this ability, her lurking in the Heaven Do Empire would no longer have any risk of exposure. She could ascend the throne flawlessly and complete Spirit Hall's layout lasting 20 years. She could even use complete hands to secretly cultivate a batch of death guards utterly loyal to herself, establish her own forces, and completely break free from that woman's control and surveillance. As for what Yang Xing said about modifying that woman's memory to make her love herself. This thought flashed through Qian Runshui's mind for just a split second before she threw it away without hesitation. She needed that woman's love. What a joke. She wanted to truly conquer that woman in the future with her own ability and make her regret what she had done. Yang Xing sat in the chair, just waiting quietly like this. The expression on Qian Runshui's face changed constantly, obviously torn between human struggle and ultimate temptation. Chapter 71, Choice, Departure. After a long time, Qian Runshui closed her eyes. She took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling. When she opened her eyes again, all the fear, hesitation, and struggle in the depths of her eyes had completely vanished, leaving only absolute firmness and clarity. She stepped forward, looked at Yang Xing, and bowed slightly, her voice crisp and free of any impurities. Master. The next moment. In Yang Xing's mind, the long-absent system prompt tone rang out like a cascading waterfall. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully taking a disciple, Qian Runshui. Ding. System judgment. Godhood potential, meets the standard. Top talent, meets the standard. Super appearance, meets the standard. Ding. Task evaluation is underway. Evaluation. Excellent. Congratulations to the host, rewards are being distributed. 3 choice 1 reward, please make your own choice, host. 1. 12 talismans 3/12. 2. Custom god trial. 3. 500,000 year matching set spirit bone. Listening to the voice in his mind, Yang Xing's smile grew wider and wider. It worked. It seemed the system judged that Qian Runshui truly wanted him as her master. Even if the master was acknowledged through a possible exchange of benefits and rational consideration, as long as there was internal recognition, it was enough. Moreover, he succeeded without teaching the 6 storehouses thief in complete hands in advance. Obviously, the system's judgment on taking disciples placed more importance on the act of truly taking a disciple itself. It focused entirely on genuine discipleship. Playing tricks with the system would not be recognized by it. However, to Yang Xing's surprise, his gaze fell on the 3 reward options given by the system. One was the 12 talismans he wanted last time, which had complex functions and were extremely powerful, but unfortunately, he could only choose 3. The other was actually a custom god trial. As for this thing, although Yang Xing was not as obsessed with becoming a god as the rest of Douluo continent, it was still becoming a god after all. If he needed it in the future, it wouldn't be impossible for him to try, and since it was a custom god trial, would it be feasible for him to directly bypass the 5 major main gods, trace the source, and customize a creation god trial? Although the gods in the Douluo continent worldview had great limitations, even so, the creation god at the very top was still unimaginably powerful, at least stronger than Yang Xing now. Besides that, the 500,000 year spirit bone set appeared somewhat unpretentious by comparison. Just as Yang Xing's consciousness was immersed between his system prompts and panel, Qian Runshui looked at this newly acknowledged chief master in front of her who ignored her for a moment, feeling somewhat confused and puzzled. Did she think she did something inappropriate somewhere? Fortunately, just as she was pondering, Yang Xing had already snapped back to his senses. He did not immediately make a choice regarding the 3 choice 1 reward in his mind, but instead refocused his gaze on Qian Runshui, who was still maintaining a bowing posture in front of him. There's no need to be so reserved, Yang Xing said to her gently with a smile. Hearing this, Qian Runshui straightened her body, her azure eyes lowered, and her posture had not a single flaw that could be picked out. Yet in her heart at this moment, she was wondering whether she should speak up directly right now and have Yang Xing teach her one of those 2 abilities on the spot. But she also felt that being so eager right after acknowledging a master might make her look unsightly and create a bad impression on this new, abruptly appearing master of hers. Although Yang Xing had clearly stated earlier that she should choose only one ability to learn, how could Qian Runshui be the kind of person to follow the rules and obey obediently? The moment she decided to sign that contract and sincerely bow to this master, her brain had already been running at high speed. She was calculating how to get both of those powerful and bizarre abilities mentioned by Yang Xing into her hands. Not only that, she even had more suspicions. Yang Xing definitely had other even more powerful and terrifying abilities. Just now, he didn't even release any spirit ability, relying solely on his physical strength and some bizarre movement technique. He could effortlessly rub the 92nd level Snake Lance Douluo against the ground and instantly kill him. With such formidable strength, perhaps the other party still had many more hidden powerful spirit abilities. Since these first two abilities could be taught, perhaps there were others that could be taught as well. Having figured this out, Qian Runshui immediately made a decision in her heart. Acknowledging him as master, she was serious. But the idea of playing the role of a flawless, respectful, and good obedient disciple in front of Yangqing was also serious. At the very least, it was no less dedicated than her infiltrating the Heaven Do Empire and playing the role of the eldest Prince Shuiqing for over a decade. Just as Qian Runshui was still pondering her choice of words and hesitating on how to naturally bring up the topic of teaching cultivation methods, Yangqing took the initiative to speak first. Number 2 obedient disciple. Yangqing looked at her with a smile, his tone relaxed. Have you decided? 6 storehouses thief in complete hands, which one do you choose? Hearing the title, Number 2 obedient disciple, the corners of Qian Runshui's eyes twitched imperceptibly, but she quickly concealed this abnormality. Unlike Ning Rongrong, who chose to let Yangqing give suggestions, she directly made her own judgment. Master, I choose 6 storehouses thief. Qian Runshui raised her head, her gaze clear and her tone firm. She did not choose complete hands. The reason for choosing 6 storehouses thief was very simple and very realistic. In order to infiltrate the Heaven Do Empire and complete the Spirit Hall's grand plan of usurping the country, she had spent far too much of her golden cultivation time in this East Palace. Although by now, her control over the Heaven Do Imperial family in the East Palace allowed her to carve out time to cultivate spirit power like a normal spirit master, she had wasted too many years after all. It could be said that at the age of 21, her current physical condition was at the absolute peak of her talent. But how many more years could this peak period be maintained? Once a spirit master passed the age of 30, their physical cultivation talent would inevitably begin to go downhill. But if she learned 6 storehouses thief, everything would be completely different. Her physical talent and functions would be permanently locked at their current highest state. Coupled with her nearly unlimited lifespan, her future cultivation path would be a smooth highway, and reaching level 100 to become a god would no longer be an unreachable extravagant hope. What's more, 6 storehouses thief also came with that extremely overbearing vitality plunder and life-saving recovery power. Given her current situation of hiding alone in the heart of the Heaven Do Empire, she could never have too many life-saving methods like this. Furthermore, if she learned 6 storehouses thief, she would definitely find an opportunity later to contact her grandfather and pass it on to him. In addition to this, she had another underlying confidence, which was her absolute self-confidence in her current political maneuvers and strategies. Even without the soul-controlling ability of complete hands, she still had the assurance to completely control the Heaven Do Imperial family. As for complete hands, logically speaking, the ability of complete hands to control souls and modify memories was also incomparably suited to her current self. Not only could it completely eliminate any worries about her infiltration in the Heaven Do Empire, but it could even allow her to secretly cultivate a large number of absolutely loyal Death Pledge soldiers and establish a faction belonging solely to herself. But the problem was that deep in her heart, a trace of caution and dread always lingered regarding the bizarre ability of complete hands. Hearing Qian Runshui's answer, Yangqing was not surprised. The reason I chose 6 storehouses thief is because Qian Runshui parted her red lips slightly, preparing to explain in detail to Yangqing why she chose this way, so as to showcase her well-thought-out strategy and long-term vision. But Yangqing didn't give her a chance to give a long speech at all. He stood up directly from the Grand Master chair, strode in front of Qian Runshui in one step, raised his right hand, and pressed his index finger directly against Qian Runshui's smooth and fair forehead. A faint blue microlight flashed and disappeared at his fingertips. A massive and profound stream of information, like a breached flood, instantly poured into Qian Runshui's mind along Yangqing's fingertips by force. That was the complete inheritance of the core soul operating root of 6 storehouses thief, the method of refining the 5 viscera and 6 bowels, and how to devour the vitality of heaven and earth. Qian Runshui froze in place instantly. Her azure eyes widened slightly, her gaze lost focus, and she fell into a daze as her brain spun wildly, trying her utmost to understand and digest this ability, which could be called a divine skill, of stealing the vitality of all things to smelt into oneself. Then Yangqing withdrew his hand and let out a big yawn. He casually swept his hand through the void, flicked his finger, and a pale white talismanic light sank into Qian Runshui's palm, transforming into a looming talisman seal. This is the Master Talisman. Yangqing stood up and stretched. When you are about to die, shout, Master save me, 3 times, or when you have important matters, you can message me. But as he finished speaking, he waved his hand looking extremely troubled. Message less when there's nothing, best not to message at all, be careful I block you. It's getting late, Master has been running around all day and is tired, so I have to go back to sleep. Study 6 storehouses thief well, don't disgrace your master. Qian Runshui was startled awake by Yangqing's voice. She snapped back to her senses abruptly. Having just pulled away from the vast mysteries of the cultivation method, she sensed that Yangqing seemed to be leaving immediately. Her heart tightened, and the greed and doubts previously suppressed deep in her heart instantly surged up. Master, wait a moment. Qian Runshui hurriedly stepped forward, a hint of eagerness in her tone. That complete hands, is there still a chance for me to learn it in the future? Also, are you? However, her words didn't even have time to be spoken out. The figure of Yangqing in front of her had already disappeared from the spot. Qian Runshui stood frozen in place, and under her feet was the 92nd level attack system Snake Lance Douluo who seemed to be taking a deep sleep, making her feel somewhat unreal. On the other side, Yangqing had already appeared in the hotel where he was resting, and early the next morning, he flew back to Shrek Academy with Ning Rongrong. Displaying Fu Hokiman with the cultivation level of a 99th level limit Douluo throughout the journey, Yangqing's spatial traversal speed was simply fast to the extreme. In less than half an hour, the two had traveled thousands of miles. It was still very early at this time, and everyone in Shrek Academy was still sleeping. When Ning Rongrong appeared again, Xiaowu reacted at the very first moment. On the surface, she was very pleasantly surprised, though inwardly she was still somewhat timid of Yangqing, but Yangqing didn't stay here much longer either. After Ning Rongrong's 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda evolved into the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda, and she decided to stay in Shrek Academy temporarily, Yangqing personally taught her how to use Fu Hokiman to conceal the strange phenomenon of her 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda. After spending some effort, Ning Rongrong very cleverly grasped the principles within. After successfully continuing to display her spirit in the form of the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda, she also mastered an additional means of combining Fu Hokiman to cast illusions. Chapter 72, Ox, Rat, Dog. After Yangqing left, Xiaowu curiously inquired about the advancement of Ning Rongrong's spirit. To her surprise, Ning Rongrong did not directly say she had successfully advanced, only that she was in the process of doing so, and even purposely flashed her 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda to make Xiaowu believe her. After Yongqing returned to his residence in Soto City, the place was exactly as it had been when he left. The maids and guards were still operating the mansion flawlessly and without slack, which left Yongqing very satisfied. Therefore, Yongqing planned to give some benefits to the city lord of Soto City and the maids and guards who had served him during this time before he left. After washing up with the assistance of a maid, Yongqing leaned back on a luxurious cushioned recliner. Enjoying the maid's massage and being fed fruits, he began to seriously consider the 3-choice 1 reward given to him by the system. He summoned the system panel with his consciousness, and right now, the 3 options were still hanging high upon it. 1. 12 talismans 3/12. 2. Custom god trial. 3. 500,000-year-old compatible spirit bone set. If he could have all 3, Yongqing naturally would have wanted to bag them all. Could he not give what he didn't need to cultivate his disciples? Using system rewards to cultivate disciples and looping like this, wouldn't he have god-level disciples all over the Douluo continent universe in the future? In that case, please rename the Douluo continent universe to the Yongqing continent universe in the future. After daydreaming enough, Yongqing analyzed the situation and understood the origin of these rewards. The first one was very simple, it was what he wanted last time. The system's intelligent assistant was right back then, as long as the quality of the disciples he took in was high enough, there was a high probability that the rewards he wanted would appear. He just didn't expect this time it would actually be a 3-choice 1 reward. As for the second one, custom god trial, he naturally desired it somewhat. Just as Yongqing had said, he wanted to get himself a creation god trial to try out. Although in essence, the god realm of the Douluo continent did not have this kind of god position inheritance called the creation god. The third one looked dispensable, but it could enhance his strength, or perhaps give him a chance to directly shape a god-level disciple for him. But the problem wasn't this equivalent to trading a disciple-taking reward for the next disciple-taking reward? He was just going in circles right here. Sure enough, even without an intelligent assistant, the system was still a smart system and wouldn't give Yongqing the opportunity to exploit bugs. In the end, Yongqing still chose 3 from the 12 talismans, because he felt that the custom god trial reward would appear again next time. If he wanted it, the system would probably provide it for him to choose again. With a thought from Yongqing, the 3 talismans, ox, rat, and dog, all materialized into physical entities and appeared in his hands. Choosing these 3 talismans was also the result of Yongqing's careful consideration. The manifestation forms of many abilities in the 12 talismans were actually similar to the 8 extraordinary techniques. Similar to the monkey talisman and Fu Hokiman, the sheep talisman and spirit control and general dispatch, the ox talisman and some ability manifestations of the 6 storehouses thief, and so on. He chose the ox talisman mainly to strongly increase the hard strength of his physical body. Although it was already strong before, it wasn't obvious enough. The rat talisman, turning stillness into motion, was mainly because he felt it seemed possible to use this to batch produce immortal herbs. Wouldn't god-level disciples be something he could cultivate and harvest batch by batch in the future? The dog talisman would truly grant him true immortality and eternal youth. The 6 storehouses thief was clearly not enough compared to it. Yongqing did not hesitate at all. The 3 talismans were materialized one by one from the system panel by him, landing in his palm. The ox talisman was warm, the rat talisman was ice cold, and the dog talisman exuded a comforting warmth. Let's start with the ox. Yongqing pressed the ox talisman into his chest. The change came fiercely and directly. An overbearing and unreasonable force exploded from deep within his bone marrow, surging through his meridians into all his limbs and bones. At this instant, his muscle fibers expanded wildly, as if they were going to swell his entire body into a mountain of flesh. He lowered his head and glanced at his bulging forearm. No. Too ugly. Fu Hokiman and the 6 storehouses thief operated inside his body almost simultaneously. Yongqing's control over his body reached its peak at this moment, cooperating with the ox talisman to strengthen his power. Ultimately, the 3 forces achieve a certain dynamic balance regarding physical strength and body size. 3 seconds. Yongqing's figure returned to normal. His arm was still that arm, his shoulders were still those shoulders, and he still looked like an ordinary young man who couldn't be any more ordinary. But he could feel it. That power had not disappeared. It was merely suppressed beneath his skin, lying dormant and ready to pour out at any time. The 4 words, moving mountains and draining seas, suddenly stopped being mere adjectives. Just as he was thinking this, the pair of hands kneading his shoulders suddenly stopped. Young master, the maid's voice carried bewilderment, this servant seems unable to press down anymore. Yongqing came back to his senses, actively loosening his muscles and consciously softening his body. The maid's fingers sank back into the soft flesh of his shoulders, and she breathed a sigh of relief as she continued to massage. Yongqing narrowed his eyes in satisfaction and picked up the second one. The rat talisman. He pressed it toward his chest. It didn't go in. Yongqing was stunned for a moment and pressed it again. The talisman was like a magnet stuck to an iron plate, repelled by the same pull, no matter what, it couldn't melt into his body. Quote. Yongqing frowned. He closed his eyes, and Fu Hokiman operated silently. The answer surfaced in his mind 3 seconds later. The rat talisman turned stillness into motion. It must be attached to a lifeless object to impart life to it. Only one object can be activated at a time, and it loses effect once separated from the body. If the shell of the rat talisman is forcibly destroyed, the power contained within it will automatically transfer to the noble rat recognized by it. By then, that noble rat will be able to repeatedly use the abilities of granting life and stripping life. The problem came. Let alone whether the Douluo continent has a so-called noble rat. Even if there were, could he find it? Could he control it? Could he make it obediently listen? Yongqing removed the rat talisman from his chest and spun it twice on his fingertips. His original plan was to find some skilled craftsmen on the Douluo continent to carve and paint replica immortal herbs 1-to-1, and then use the rat talisman to give these carved immortal herbs life, turning them into real immortal herbs. If possible, they could be batch-produced for future disciples to use. But now he knew he had thought too much. The 8 extraordinary techniques given by the system were the perfect version after magical modification and optimization, while these 12 talismans were given as the original version. The limitations of the original version were magnified several times in the environment of the Douluo continent. Yongqing regretfully put away the rat talisman and temporarily shelved it. It's not that this rat talisman isn't powerful. It's just that before he figured out a reliable method of use, it was temporarily a chicken rib-like existence to him. However, it didn't have much impact. The last one. The dog talisman. This was what he cared about the most. The moment the talisman entered his body, there was no violent physical expansion like the ox talisman, no pain, and not even any obvious surge of power. There was only one feeling. A very marvelous feeling. It was as if the concept of life was locked at this moment, and it was eternal and unchanging at the rule level. Yangqing closed his eyes and felt it for a few seconds. He wouldn't die anymore. Chapter 73 at least level 95 or above. Qian Daoliu. It was not the concept of slowing down aging like the six storehouses thief, but a true, physical, and absolute immortality. Even if he were thrown into the sun to burn, as long as the power of the dog charm remained, his life would not end. Yangqing opened his eyes, the corners of his mouth curving up. Then he made a decision. To lie flat. As for testing strength or whatever, he would lie down and play for a day first. From being driven out of the village, to heading to Shrek to take in Ningrongrong, and then to Heaven-Do City to take in Qian Runshui, right up until now, he had been running non-stop, spinning like a top. Before crossing over, he was someone who just wanted to win 5 million and lie down waiting for death. Now, possessing limit Douluo cultivation, an immortal body, and the strength to move mountains, he ended up busier than going to work. Wouldn't taking disciples and growing stronger have been for nothing then? I won't go out today since there's nothing to do. Yangqing collapsed onto the cushioned recliner and stretched out his hand toward the maid, grapes. The maid obediently peeled one and brought it to his lips. This lie down went straight until the afternoon of the next day. Late last night, Heaven-Do City, Heaven-Do Imperial Palace, East Palace. After Yangqing left, Qian Runshui stood in place for a long time. She looked down at the faint master's talisman imprint on her palm and then raised her hand to touch her own forehead. The slight chill from Yangqing's fingertips still lingered there. Information about the six storehouses thief lingered in her mind. That set of techniques, which subverted Spirit Hall's millennia of research and overturned all Spirit Master cultivation systems recorded since the beginning of Douluo continent, was so mysterious and formidable that she still felt it was somewhat unreal to this day. But Qian Runshui did not cultivate it right away. She knew very well that now was not the time to immerse herself in it. She took a deep breath, suppressed all distracting thoughts, and resumed Shui Qinghei's gentle and refined appearance. She raised her hand and patted it lightly 3 times. The secret door opened. 3 guards dressed in black silently appeared and knelt on one knee. These were all loyal death guards she brought from Spirit Hall who were absolutely loyal to her. Full martial law. Qian Runshui's voice was calm without a trace of ripple. Strictly investigate whether anyone discovered any commotion inside and outside the East Palace just now, and whether anyone entered or left. Yes. The 3 withdrew. Half an hour later. The chief guard returned, bowing in report. Your Highness, a thorough investigation has been conducted. Tonight, aside from your Highness and Lord Snake Lance, no one else detected any abnormalities. The outer patrol guards did not find any suspicious personnel entering or leaving. Confirm there is no risk of exposure. Confirmed. Qian Runshui nodded and waved for the other party to withdraw. She walked to the corner of the study, where Snake Lance Douluo Shilong was still lying on the ground, covered in blood and unconscious. Qian Runshui squatted down and reached out to test the other's breathing. His breathing was steady, he was only unconscious. She stood up and clapped her hands again. The person who entered this time was a middle-aged woman wearing a grey robe with a restrained aura. She was Spirit Hall's exclusive healing type spirit master with spirit saint cultivation, usually hidden in the shadows of the East Palace, specializing in dealing with some injuries that could not be made public. Save him. Qian Runshui was concise. The grey-robed woman did not ask much, walked to Shilong's side, and her hands flashed with a soft white light, enveloping the other's head. 10 minutes later, Shilong slowly woke up. He opened his eyes, and the first thing he saw was Qian Runshui's cold face. Eldest miss. Shilong struggled to get up. Lie down. Qian Runshui waved her hand, dismissed the rest of the people, and asked, what do you think of that person just now? Shilong was silent for a moment, his voice hoarse, very strong. Specifically. At least level 95 or above. Shilong's expression was very ugly, I even suspect that he might have touched the threshold of a super Douluo. Qian Runshui's pupils shrank slightly. He didn't use any spirit ability, nor did he release his spirit avatar. It was just pure physical strength and some bizarre movement technique. At this point, Shilong's tone revealed deep apprehension. Under his hands, I couldn't even last a single move. Eldest miss, a person like this. Qian Runshui did not answer. She dismissed the grey-robed woman and sat alone in the study for a long time. Outside the window, the sky was gradually brightening. Qian Runshui got up, walked to the desk, and took out a special spirit tool from a hidden compartment. It was a black token with complex patterns carved on the surface, emitting a faint spirit power fluctuation. This was a secret contact method she had almost never activated in the more than 10 years since she came to the Heaven-Do Empire. She injected spirit power, and the token lit up. A quarter of an hour later, in the secret room of the East Palace side hall, a spatial fluctuation flashed. A spirit saint dressed in black robes with an obscure aura appeared in front of Qian Runshui. Eldest miss. Initiate the secret transmission protocol. Qian Runshui's voice was unquestionable. I want to return to the hall immediately. The black-robed spirit saint was stunned for a moment, then bowed, yes. At 6 o'clock the next morning. Spirit hall, deep within the Hall of Elders. Qian Runshui's figure appeared at the end of a dim corridor. She was draped in a black robe with a hood covering her face, followed by the spirit saint responsible for escorting her. On both sides of the corridor, every 10 meters, there was a stone-carved angel statue. The statue's eyes seemed to be watching the visitor, exuding a sacred and majestic aura. Qian Runshui did not pause, walking straight to the heavy stone door at the end of the corridor. She raised her hand and tapped 3 times in succession at a specific location on the surface of the stone door. The stone door did not move at all. But an invisible fluctuation emanated from inside the door, piercing through the stone door and sweeping over Qian Runshui's entire body. That was a certain special spirit power detection, confirming the visitor's identity. 3 seconds later, an aged yet vigorous voice came from inside the stone door. What is the matter? The voice was not loud, but it carried the foundation and momentum of a rank 99 limit Douluo. Falling into the ears of the black-robed spirit saint behind Qian Runshui, it was like a loud bell vibrating the heart, making him involuntarily take another half step back, his voice becoming a few fractions more respectful. High priest, eldest miss requests an audience. The black-robed spirit saint bowed and spoke. Inside the stone door, there was a moment of silence. Immediately after, the heavy stone door slowly opened to both sides. Dust rose, and light seeped through the cracks of the door. A figure walked out from inside the door. Qian Daoliu. He looked to be only in his 30s or 40s, with a head of long black hair neatly draped behind his head, dressed in a plain grey robe. His face was handsome, but between his brows carried the majesty precipitated by the years. But when his gaze fell upon Qian Runshui, that majesty quickly faded, replaced by gentleness and affection. Shui. Qian Runshui lifted her hood, revealing her exquisite and cold face. Grandfather. Qian Douluo hurried forward and reached out to rub Qian Runshui's hair. The black hood slipped off, revealing her waterfall-like blonde long hair and her exquisite face maintaining a calm state. Long time no see, Shui has grown a bit taller again. Qian Daluo's voice was as gentle as coaxing a child. He turned his head to glance at the black-robed spirit saint behind her and waved his hand. Withdraw. Yes. Chapter 74, that is because of this, Grandpa. The black-robed spirit saint felt as if granted a general amnesty, turning and disappearing at the end of the corridor. Qian Daluo brought Qian Runshui through the corridor, arriving at his exclusive palace deep within the consecrated hall. The palace was not large and was furnished simply, but everywhere it exuded a solemn and respectful atmosphere. Tea room. Qian Daluo personally boiled water and brewed tea, his movements unhurried. Qian Runshui sat opposite, waiting quietly. The cup was filled with hot tea. Speak. Qian Daluo put down the teapot, raising his eyes to look at Qian Runshui. Coming back in such a rush in the middle of the night, what happened? Qian Runshui picked up the teacup, took a sip, and put it down. Last night, I was forcibly taken as a disciple by an unfamiliar titled Douluo. The air in the tea room instantly froze. The teacup in Qian Daluo's hand stopped in midair, a cold light flashing in his eyes. His momentum at this moment was somewhat uncontrollable, and an invisible pressure spread outwards in all directions. The tea on the coffee table trembled slightly, overflowing a few drops from the rim of the cup. What? Qian Daluo's voice was very soft, but the anger contained within it was clearly audible. He furrowed his brows, putting the teacup back onto the table, his tone sinking a bit. Weren't Shilong and Si Shui those two fellows by your side? What were they even doing? Qian Runshui shook her head, her expression still calm. That titled Douluo directly broke into the Heaven Do Imperial Palace. Qian Daluo's brows furrowed even tighter. So you didn't let the two of them make a move? Afraid of exposing your identity? No. Qian Runshui's voice was very calm. Snakelance Douluo was by my side at the time, and I had Snakelance Douluo make a move. Qian Daluo's expression paused slightly. Snakelance Douluo was dealt with by that titled Douluo in 3 seconds. Qian Daluo's pupils suddenly shrank. He stared at Qian Runshui, as if wanting to see some flaw from her face. But Qian Runshui's expression remained consistently calm, without a trace of pretense. 3 seconds. A level 92 titled Douluo was dealt with within 3 seconds. Qian Daluo's expression sank completely. Continue. Moreover, that titled Douluo knows my identity. Qian Runshui raised her eyes to look at Qian Daluo. He made me sign a master-disciple contract in the identity of Qian Runshui and take him as my master. The gentleness between Qian Daluo's brows completely dissipated, replaced by solemnity and seriousness. His fingers unconsciously tapped lightly on the table surface, making a rhythmic sound. That was his habitual action when thinking. So, that person knows your plan of lurking in the Heaven Do Empire. Qian Daluo's tone became icy. And he is not any titled Douluo registered on the Spirit Hall roster that you have seen. Qian Runshui nodded. That's right. Qian Daluo was silent for a moment, sighing. Have you told your mother's side about this? Qian Runshui knew he was speaking of Bibi Dong. Not yet. Qian Daluo rubbed his labella, a hint of helplessness leaking into his tone. This plan is the painstaking effort your mother planned for many years. If such a loophole really appears and it is declared a failure, she will be very furious. By then. He didn't continue, but Qian Runshui understood the meaning in his words. That woman Bibi Dong, once she flies into a rage, no one can stop her. Qian Daluo shook his head, putting away those stray thoughts. Now is not the time to consider these things. The focus is to resolve the hidden danger. Since that person knows your identity, he must. There's no need to resolve it. Qian Runshui interrupted his words. Qian Daluo was stunned. The plan was neither exposed nor failed. Qian Runshui raised her eyes to look at Qian Daluo, saying word by word, because your granddaughter truly took that title Douluo as her master in the end. The tea room fell into dead silence once more. This sentence directly caused Qian Daluo's consistently steady mindset to experience a momentary lapse of composure. At this moment, Qian Daluo finally realized the severity of the matter. In fact, most of the things Qian Runshui had told him previously, including being forcibly taken as a disciple, identity exposure, Snakelance Douluo being instantly killed, and the nation-stealing plan possibly leaking. These matters were not particularly serious before him. A level 99 limit Douluo who had lived for 200 to 300 years, wholeheartedly worshipped the angel god, and was hailed as invincible in the sky. He could even proudly say that even if Spirit Hall were destroyed, he would have the confidence to rebuild it. Because he was confident that his own strength was enough to crush everything. But there was only one thing outside of strength that he absolutely could not accept. That was the future issue concerning the granddaughter in front of him. He had already gambled all the hopes of the Qian family on this granddaughter. That contained the ultimate expectation for the Qian family to produce another deity. Now, his granddaughter was telling him that she had actually sincerely taken an unfamiliar title Douluo as her master. Taking a master basically equated to inheriting the other party's orthodox tradition. As for Ning Fengji, whom his granddaughter had taken as a master in the identity of Shui Qing before, or what she said about being forced to take a master just when they met, he wouldn't even look at them. Because those were fake. But now that Qian Runshui herself said she sincerely took that title Douluo as her master, the implication was completely different. This meant that Qian Runshui was going to follow the blonde-haired titled spirit master who popped out from who knows which corner of the world, learning his spirit master concepts and spirit master heritage. This would likely affect the angel god's future evaluation of Qian Runshui, directly impacting whether or not she would be granted the angel god trials. Besides worrying about this, Qian Daluo had another layer of anger deep in his heart. He, a dignified level 99 limit Douluo, was a peerless powerhouse invincible in the sky and suppressing an entire generation. He hadn't even had time to teach his own granddaughter more things yet, so how did a master inexplicably appear out of nowhere now? Qian Daluo's expression changed uncertainly in an instant, his expression struggling immensely. But looking at his most beloved granddaughter in front of him, who although still keeping a cold face, clearly showed a hint of stubbornness, he ultimately couldn't bring himself to say any harsh words. He let out a long sigh. Trying his best to steady his emotions and suppress his anger. His tone became lingering and slow. Tell me what exactly happened. Why did you end up genuinely taking that unfamiliar title Douluo as your master in the end? Facing Qian Daluo's inquiry, Qian Runshui stood up directly under Qian Daluo's puzzled gaze. She walked up to Qian Daluo, extended her finger, and tapped Qian Daluo on the head. Qian Daoliu naturally didn't have much defense against Qian Runshui and was easily tapped. Then he discovered with puzzlement that nothing happened. Shui, what are you doing? Qian Runshui knitted her brows. Her master Yangqing had transmitted it to her like that back then, why wasn't it working when she transmitted it to Grandpa like this? Apparently, Yangqing had forgotten to tell her back then that the Tot spirit ability had rule restrictions and could not be secondhand transmitted. Caught in awkwardness, Qian Runshui was also smart, and immediately thought of another method. Under Qian Daoliu's once again puzzled and uncomprehending gaze, she raised her finger once more and tapped it right between Qian Daoliu's eyebrows. Since the complete cultivation method for the spirit ability could not be imparted, she would instead impart the introductory information about 6 storehouses thief and complete hands blue hand that Yangqing had given her at the beginning. Finishing all this, Qian Runshui withdrew her hand and sat back down. She picked up her teacup, and coolly, handsomely, and coldly said, "That is because of this, Grandpa." The next moment, the information regarding the 6 storehouses thief and complete hands blue hand parts that Yangqing had passed to Qian Runshui directly exploded with a boom inside Qian Daoliu's mind. Chapter 75, Qian Daoliu's Desire. The moment the flow of information poured in, Qian Daoliu's pupils lost focus. That was not an ordinary spirit ability introduction, nor was it a couple of signature moves from some titled Douluo, but 2 complete, self-contained cultivation methods whose logic was breathtakingly rigorous. 6 storehouses thief. Taking the human body's 6 visceral organs as the core, it constructed a perfect energy conversion and circulation system, decomposing the essence of all ingested things into the most primitive spirit power and vitality, keeping cells at peak vitality at all times, delaying aging, and approaching immortality. Complete hands, blue hand. The soul was dissected into an origin light sphere, with spiritual threads wound around it. Under the coverage of blue light, reading memories was like flipping through a book, and deleting or altering cognitions was like cutting cloth, it was permanent and imperceptible. Qian Daoliu sat motionless across the tea table. His hands rested on his knees, fingers spread flat, neither clenching into fists nor trembling. But his facial muscles were frozen, like a stone statue whose rough shape had just been chiseled out. 153 years. He had cultivated for 153 years. From the initial spirit scholar to the present 99th rank limit Douluo, every step he had taken was piled up with blood and time. He had seen countless geniuses fall, witnessed kingdoms collapse and rebuild, and seen the shadow of gods cast light in the clouds and withdraw it. He had always thought that he was already standing at the very top that human spirit masters could reach. 99th rank. Limit. Going further up, there were only gods. And the authority of the god trials was not in his hands. In this life, he was destined to only be a gatekeeper, a stepping stone, that mortal who raised his head to look up at the divine throne but could never reach it. He had accepted it. He had accepted it more than 100 years ago. But now, the information of 6 storehouses thief surged in his mind. The logic of that method was as clear as a knife, directly splitting open the shell of all his cultivation cognitions over the past 153 years. He suddenly discovered. The path he had always walked might be fundamentally wrong. It wasn't wrong in direction, but wrong in perspective. Qian Daoliu's breath stopped for half a beat. If 6 storehouses thief was real, if cultivation could truly restore the body to its optimal state and possess near infinite lifespan, then why did he have to wait for the god trials? Why must he depend on others' breath? He, Qian Daoliu, a 99th rank limit Douluo, invincible in the sky, how many years had he been trapped in this realm? Was it because his talent was not enough? Yes. But the deeper reason was that time was not enough. The lifespan of a titled Douluo was right there. Even if he lived another 100 years, 200 years, or 500 years, he might not be able to cross that natural chasm with his own strength. But what if he had 1,000 years? 5,000 years? 10,000 years? He did not need the god trials. He could take that step himself. Level 100, level 120, level 150, level 200. Since those high and mighty gods looked down on him, Qian Daoliu, why shouldn't he carve out a path of his own? As long as he had the strength to beat gods to death, who would dare say he wasn't a god? Once this thought emerged, it was like a breached flood, no longer able to be blocked back. Qian Daoliu's aura went out of control. The coercion of a 99th rank limit Douluo silently poured out from his body. The tea on the tea table trembled violently, and the liquid surface in the cup bulged and recessed. The air in the entire tea room suddenly became more than 10 times heavier. Qian Runshui opposite him only felt a tightness in her chest, as if she had been shoved flatly by someone's palm. Greed. Pure, naked, unmasked greed. Poured out without reservation from the body of this old man who had lived for 153 years and had seen all the phenomena of the world. At this moment, Qian Daoliu had no disguise. He was not the high priest of Spirit Hall, not the invincible in the sky super Douluo, and not the loving grandfather. He was just a dying man standing in front of a countdown to death who suddenly saw an escape door. Qian Runshui did not speak. She sat quietly opposite him, enduring the coercion that almost forced her to kneel. Her back was straight, her hands were placed flat on her knees, and her face was pale but her expression was calm. She understood. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Qian Daoliu's aura began to retract. The oppressive feeling that made the entire tea room tremble receded layer by layer, like receding tide water. Qian Daoliu's facial muscles regained mobility. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his gaze refocused and fell on Qian Runshui's face. Shock, understanding, and a complex emotion of empathy. He understood. He understood why Qian Runshui had truly apprenticed herself to that strange titled Douluo under those circumstances. Grandfather, Qian Runshui spoke. Her voice was calm, and her speaking speed was neither fast nor slow. I think you need this too. As long as we have the 6 storehouses thief, the future of our spirit hall will head in a completely different direction. Qian Daoliu looked at her. This granddaughter who grew up by his side since childhood. She was sent to the Heaven Do Empire as a chess piece at the age of 9. For 10 years like one day, she dressed as a man and walked on the edge of a knife. Although she was only 21 years old, her eyes were more steady than most old foxes he had seen. It has been hard on you. Qian Daoliu's voice lowered by a few degrees. Qian Runshui shook her head. It hasn't been hard. Her tone was calm, stating a fact. I was indeed forced at first. But after learning about these 2 spirit abilities, this granddaughter feels that taking him as a master is instead a rare, once in 8,000 years opportunity. She paused. I don't know why that person. Master is so obsessed with taking disciples, even willing to impart spirit abilities comparable to divine skills. But these are not important. Qian Runshui raised her eyes, her gaze clear. What's important is that I am now his disciple. I will have the opportunity to acquire all these things in the future. After 2 seconds of silence, Qian Daoliu suddenly laughed. Ha 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 ha. The laughter went from low to high, echoing in the tea room. He stood up, reached out, and rubbed Qian Runshui's head, the force being a bit heavier than just now. As expected of my Qian family's granddaughter. The laughter stopped. Qian Dalu's expression turned pensive. He sat down again, his fingers habitually tapping lightly on the desktop. However, that master of yours hasn't guarded against nothing. Qian Runshui's eyes shifted slightly. Just now, Qian Dalu looked at her. The first time you wanted to directly transmit the cultivation method to me, it failed. Right. Qian Runshui nodded. Indeed, when he taught it to me, he used the method of fingertip infusion. I followed suit, but couldn't transmit it out. Later, I changed my approach and only transmitted the basic information of the spirit ability, and then it succeeded. So he has external transmission restrictions on his own spirit abilities. Qian Dalu nodded, his tone showing no disappointment. Normal. If it were me, I would do the same. He looked at Qian Runshui. Did you choose the 6 storehouses thief? Yes, he let me choose one between the two. Qian Dalu pondered for a moment. Complete hands might be more suitable for your current situation. Qian Runshui shook her head, her gaze firm. I need the 6 storehouses thief more. Her voice did not hesitate. My physical talent is currently at its peak, and in a few years it will start going downhill. 6 storehouses thief can lock this state forever. Coupled with a near infinite lifespan, my future will be limitless. She paused for a beat. An arc curled up at the corners of her mouth. A rare smile appeared on her cold and exquisite face. As for complete hands, a glint of slyness flashed in the depths of Qian Runshui's eyes. I'm sure there will be opportunities in the future. Chapter 76, Danger Warning. Qian Dalu gazed at her for a moment. Then he nodded slightly. Good. The atmosphere between the two completely calmed down from the initial shock. The tea room returned to silence. Qian Dalu picked up the kettle again, refilled a cup of hot tea, and pushed it in front of Qian Runshui. Let's talk about business next. Qian Runshui picked up the teacup, took a sip, and put it down. That master of yours, you told me his name is Yongqing. Qian Dalu reorganized the information he had just obtained. A titled Douluo who is not on the registration list of Spirit Hall. He looks extremely young, around his early 20s. He possesses at least 2 self-created soul skills comparable to divine skills. With pure physical strength and keenness, he crushed the 92nd level Snake Lance Douluo within 3 seconds. His fingers tapped on the table 3 times. Spirit Hall cannot become enemies with him. Qian Runshui nodded. I share the same thought. Since you have become his apprentice, you should get along with him as a normal master and apprentice, respecting your master and valuing the Tao. Qian Dalu's speech was very slow, pondering every single word. Do your duty as a disciple. Understood. As for my desire to learn the 6 storehouses thief. Qian Dalu raised his head, his gaze breaking away from contemplation. There is no need for you to bring it up. Qian Runshui's eyebrows twitched slightly. Qian Dalu shook his head. He has restrictions on the transmission of his spirit ability to outsiders. This is a normal self-preservation method. Grandfather will not let you risk the breakdown of the master-apprentice relationship to speak up for grandfather. His voice was calm, carrying the self-esteem and sense of propriety belonging to an old man. You only need to find an opportunity to find out one thing. Whether he has the willingness to pass it on. If so, I, Qian Dalu, can take out any equivalent exchange item that he is satisfied with and willing to accept to trade. Qian Runshui was silent for 2 seconds and nodded. Lastly, Qian Dalu's tone suddenly deepened a bit. Everything about this newly accepted master of yours and the 6 storehouses thief shall remain only between you and me. Qian Runshui's gaze became sharp for a split second. She understood what grandfather was going to say next. Temporarily, at least for now, you cannot let your mother know. The air fell quiet for a beat. Qian Dalu's gaze fell on Qian Runshui's face. In those eyes, there was pity, helplessness, and a trace of extremely faint pain. He knew. That woman Bibi Dong, if she learned that methods capable of increasing lifespan and manipulating soul memories like the 6 storehouses thief in complete hands existed in this world, given her current state of mind, it would be utterly impossible for her to remain rational like him. She would obtain them at all costs, even if it meant becoming enemies with the entire world. Furthermore, Qian Dalu vaguely sensed that Bibi Dong might have already come into contact with certain things she shouldn't have touched. Rakshasa god. The god of evil thoughts. Her mental state might have already been affected long ago. If she were to learn of the existence of her granddaughter's master, the situation would inevitably spiral out of control. I understand. Qian Runshui's voice was very soft. Qian Dalu withdrew his gaze and said no more. The tea room was silent for a moment. Qian Runshui took out something from her sleeve, opened her palm, and handed it in front of Qian Dalu. An indistinct talisman imprint. A pale white luster flickered uncertainly in her palm. This is the master talisman he passed down to me. Qian Runshui explained. He said it can be triggered by shouting, Master, save me, 3 times when in danger. Usually, it can also transmit messages to contact him. Qian Dalu took it and looked at it. The talisman imprint flowed between his fingers, emitting a certain energy fluctuation completely unfamiliar to him. It was not spirit power, nor mental force, but rather resembled a branding on the level of some kind of rule. Yet another unseen method. Qian Dalu clicked his tongue and returned the talisman imprint to Qian Runshui. He stood up, turned around, and walked to the window. Outside the window were the towering mountains behind the Hall of Revered Elders. Morning light had just pierced through the clouds, and golden light poured down along the cliff walls, dyeing the rolling ridges a warm color. With his back to Qian Runshui, Qian Dalu held his hands behind his back. Your master is not on the registration list of Spirit Hall. His voice drifted from the window. This means he is a titled Douluo whose identity has never been made public. Judging by his age, he is very likely a recent breakthrough. He turned his head sideways, his gaze falling on Qian Runshui. As for how he crushed Snake Lance Douluo with the status of a newly advanced titled Douluo, the reason is probably in those spirit abilities. Qian Runshui nodded slightly. Therefore, Qian Dalu turned around, facing Qian Runshui. The morning light shone in from behind him, casting a layer of golden rim on his shoulders. You find a suitable time to contact this master of yours. Just say that I, Qian Dalu, personally invite him to come to Spirit City. A trace of doubt flashed in Qian Runshui's eyes. Qian Dalu extended a finger. To hold a titled Douluo coronation ceremony for him. Qian Runshui was stunned for a moment, and then immediately understood Qian Dalu's intention. Spirit Hall had the tradition of registering all titled Douluos across the entire continent. Every newly advanced title Douluo could go to Spirit City to accept coronation, obtain a title, and become famous throughout the world from then on. This was the authority that Spirit Hall had continued for thousands of years, and it was also one of its core methods to win over the powerhouses of the world. Inviting Yongqing under this pretext was both reasonable and logical, and it would not seem deliberate. More importantly, this is goodwill actively released by Spirit Hall. There's one more thing. Qian Daoliu added. Qian Runshui raised her eyes to look at him. Today's matter. Qian Daoliu's gaze was as steady as an abyss. What you said to me, you're coming to see me, and the content of our discussion, you don't need to hide it from him. Qian Runshui's pupils shrank slightly. Tell him everything. Everything. Qian Daoliu nodded. Including my desire to learn the 6 storehouses thief, and including our attitude. Be open and honest. He walked back to the tea table and looked down at Qian Runshui. That person can know your identity and come and go freely in the Heaven Do Imperial Palace. Qian Runshui was silent. Rather than letting him discover your little thoughts on his own, it's better for us to proactively show our cards. Qian Daoliu sat back down in his chair. Sincerity is sometimes more useful than scheming. Qian Runshui lowered her eyelashes and pondered for a few seconds. I understand. On the afternoon of the second day back in Soto City, Yongqing originally planned to go test the changes brought to him by the 3 talismans. But when it was time to set off, every time he just said he would lie down a little longer, and he also planned to make time to go home once. As a result, lying down brought it to the afternoon of the 3rd day. Then he felt a warning fluctuation that he had designed for the Master Talisman back then. Only when the Master Talisman felt that the holder was in a life crisis would it actively issue a warning and reminder to him. Although Yongqing took apprentices based on system missions. And he was relatively lazy by nature, after all, he had taken apprentices, so he couldn't take 0 responsibility. At least impart one of the 8 extraordinary techniques, then scatter a Master Talisman, and then when the disciple he took encounters danger, making an overbearing move to showcase a master's demeanor was still acceptable. Although these disciples were all his cheap disciples, not just anyone could bully them either, right? Otherwise, where would he put his face as a dignified transmigrator, limit Douluo god of lying flat, and the hero of the staff who could single-handedly fight 18 major Zongnu bandits when he was an ordinary person in his past life? But sometimes Yongqing felt that he, as a master, was quite irresponsible, and at other times he felt that the vast majority of masters weren't even as responsible as him. Although he didn't teach his disciples hand in hand, when he had treasures, he really gave them. When lives were at stake, he genuinely protected them. Let the rest of the Douluo continent with master apprentice heritages come take a look, who could do this? Because of this, the master talismans he gave to Ning Rongrong and Qian Runshui, in addition to daily active calls for help and communication, also had a function set up to passively sense life-threatening dangers and send warning information to him. Originally, Yongqing thought this function wouldn't be useful. After all, he felt that Ning Rongrong and Qian Runshui basically wouldn't be foolish enough to really let themselves be in a life crisis without even trying to shout, "Master," a few times to ask him for help. But the reality right now was precisely like that. Yongqing frowned at the first instance, and then his figure flickered and disappeared from where he stood. Over on Ning Rongrong's side, after her spirit advanced and Yongqing sent her back to Shrek Academy, she subsequently rejoined the team normally and participated in the mission led by Zhao Wuji, along with all 7 current Shrek students, to acquire a spirit ring for Oscar. The group spent a day traveling over 400 kilometers and arrived at an ordinary hotel to rest. Just as they were ordering food, a group of students led by Yi Ziqiu, the director of the External Affairs Department of Kanghui Academy, also walked into the restaurant. Whether Flender had proactively given pointers to Daimubai and Ma Hongjun before this trip, or if it was simply their inherent nature. Upon seeing a good-looking female student among the opposing students, Daimubai and Ma Hongjun made no effort to conceal their gazes and proactively began to flirt and tease. Their voices were very loud, causing the people from Kanghui Academy to glare angrily at them. Seeing this, Oscar timely explained the situation to Ning Rongrong, Xiao Wu, Tang San, and Zhu Zuqing at the same table. He brought out Flender's theory, saying that those who dared not cause trouble were mediocre, and that provoking a Spirit Master Academy was the safest option, with the worst outcome merely being a fight. Sitting on her chair at that moment, Ning Rongrong frowned directly as she listened to Oscar's words. Having been taken in as a disciple by Yongqing and having studied Fu Hokimen, she had ultimately witnessed a much broader world. Even without going through the original trajectory of conflicting with Daimubai and others upon their first meeting at Shrek Academy, and being completely domesticated by Flender to change her personality, her current personality had already undergone changes compared to before. Ever since coming into contact with Fu Hokimen, Ning Rongrong's worldview had been forcefully elevated by a dimension. Fu Hokimen emphasized fixing the central palace and turning the 4 discs, seeing through the essence and laws of the operation of all things in heaven and earth. This power subtly reshaped her way of thinking. She still possessed spoiledness and a proud bone, but the interior beneath this outer shell was no longer hollow willful behavior. Her current habit and behavior in handling matters was no longer just looking at the surface of things, but starting from the surface to see the inner substance. Therefore, Ning Rongrong furrowed her brows and gave a rebuttal at the first instance. Oscar. Oscar turned his head to look at her, his peach blossom eyes carrying a hint of smugness. Who said these words? Ning Rongrong asked. Dean Flender. Oh, Ning Rongrong nodded, her tone as bland as if she were commenting that the weather was nice today. Then I would like to ask, is this called causing trouble? Her chin lifted slightly, her gaze sweeping past the youths from Kanghui Academy who were walking toward their table, and then falling back onto Daimubai and Ma Hongjun. They were sitting there eating properly, yet you stared at their female students, made verbal teases, and deliberately didn't lower your voices. This isn't called causing trouble, it's called venting. Oscar was stunned. Ning Rongrong's voice was not loud, but everyone at this table heard it clearly. I used to do this kind of thing often too. If I found someone displeasing to the eye, I would look for trouble. If I wanted to lose my temper, I would find someone to vent on. When she said this, her expression was very calm, even carrying a hint of self-mockery. But I never fabricated a set of principles for myself, claiming that this was cultivation or honing. She looked at Oscar. Doing a bad thing is doing a bad thing. If you want to fight, admit you want to fight. Why must you paste a layer of gold on top and say something like those who dare not cause trouble are mediocre? The table fell silent for a fleeting moment. Ning Rongrong placed her water cup down on the table, producing a crisp sound. It's nothing more than venting one's desires while deceiving oneself. After Ning Rongrong finished saying these words, Oscar was directly dumbfounded. He opened his mouth, unable to make a sound for a long time. If anyone else had said these words, he would have retorted a bit, but because it was said by Ning Rongrong, he inexplicably lacked any confidence to refute it. In fact, if following the original situation, without the reverse reasoning stated by Ning Rongrong, Tang San, Xiao Wu, and Zhu Zuqing would have very easily accepted this theory of Oscar and even Flender. But now, with a comparison in Ning Rongrong's counter-brainwashing speech, the situation immediately changed. First were Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuqing. After hearing it, the two unconsciously nodded. They felt that what Ning Rongrong said was much more reasonable than what Oscar said. Causing trouble was indeed something they could accept, but actively provoking others and then gilding one's own face made people feel somewhat repulsed. As for Tang San, although he was more inclined toward the duo of Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun, who had a closer relationship with him, he also unconsciously associated Ning Rongrong's reasoning with their Tang sect code. If others do not offend me, I will not offend others. Indeed, for a split second, he was also somewhat confused about the rights and wrongs of Ning Rongrong and the duo of Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun, feeling that Ning Rongrong's words struck directly at the essence. But even though Ning Rongrong had meticulously analyzed the true core of a few people actively causing trouble, Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun ultimately provoked the other party anyway. The students of Kanghui Academy counterattacked, and a battle broke out between both sides. Zhao Wuji finally appeared, slapping Yi Ziqiu flying with one palm and ending this farce. After concluding this matter, the two sides officially entered the Stardo Great Forest the next day. After entering the forest, everyone maintained vigilance as they moved forward. Their luck was quite good, as they subsequently hunted a 1,000-year-old coxcomb phoenix snake for Oscar. Just as Oscar was preparing to absorb the spirit ring, they encountered Chao Tianxiang, the snake granny of the Overlord Dragon and Snake, who came out with her granddaughter Meng Yiren to block them. Negotiations between the two sides yielded no results, and they finally decided to resolve it using the rules of the Spirit Master's world. Tang San stepped forward to battle and defeated Meng Yiren, deciding that the ownership of the spirit ring belonged to Oscar. Just as Oscar finished absorbing the spirit ring and everyone was preparing to leave, Tang San suddenly announced that he had broken through to level 30 spirit power. To help Tang San acquire his third spirit ring, Zhao Wuji decided to lead the team to continue staying in the Stardo Great Forest. They stayed until the third day. Then, the incident of the Titan Giant Ape abducting Xiao Wu was encountered. In the nighttime forest, two tall trees suddenly parted to both sides, and the Titan Giant Ape, resembling a mountain, walked out silently. A terrifying pressure instantly enveloped the entire scene. Encountering this matter, Ning Rongrong and the others led by Zhao Wuji put up resistance at the very first instance. Zhao Wuji directly unleashed his spirit avatar, and Dai Mubai, Tang San, and others also launched full-force attacks. But the result was self-evident, they failed. The Titan Giant Ape only released a layer of black airwaves, shaking everyone flying away. Xiao Wu was grabbed in the hand by the Titan Giant Ape and directly snatched away. Ning Rongrong collapsed and sat on the ground, watching helplessly as Xiao Wu was taken away by the king of the forest, the Titan Giant Ape. The first thing that came to her mind was to seek help from her master, Yongxing. Because she and Xiao Wu had been getting along quite well during this period, she truly couldn't bear to watch her get killed by the Titan Giant Ape just like that. Flipping her palm over, her palm had already gripped the pale white master talisman. As long as she injected spirit power into it or encountered life-threatening danger, her master would perceive it. But right at this moment, she heard the popular science explanations from both Zhao Wuji and Tang San. Disengaging his spirit avatar, Zhao Wuji told everyone with an ashen face that that was the king of the forest, the Titan Giant Ape, and the absolute overlord of the Stardo Great Forest. Tang San also supplemented Grandmaster's theory, explaining the terrifying aspects of the Titan Giant Ape. After listening, Ning Rongrong hesitated. That Titan Giant Ape was the king of the forest, and with just a single wave of air, it had rendered Zhao Wuji, a 76th-rank spirit saint, completely powerless to resist. Moreover, with her profound family learning, she knew deeply that spirit beasts of the same tier were far stronger than human spirit masters, they were simply not beings of the same order of magnitude. In case this spirit beast right before her was a powerhouse at the same title Douluo level as her master Yongxing, if she called her stinky swindler master over, wouldn't that be sending him to his death? Therefore, between her feelings and the importance of Xiao Wu and Yongxing to her, she inevitably leaned a little bit toward Yongxing in the end. She subconsciously clenched her palm, putting the hand holding the master talisman behind her back. Beside her, Tang San's eyes were blood red. After Xiao Wu was abducted, Zhao Wuji, Oscar, and the others fell into extreme despair. The only savior they could think of was the mysterious powerhouse who appeared instantly when Ning Rongrong called out to him outside the Sunset Forest that day, which was Ning Rongrong's master. Tang San turned his head, staring fixedly at Ning Rongrong, and asked Ning Rongrong for help in a hoarse voice. Zhao Wuji also looked toward her, a trace of anticipation carrying in his eyes. Looking at Tang San's eyes that seemed about to drip blood, Ning Rongrong's heart gave a fierce wrench. But she bit her lower lip and subconsciously gave a lie. She told everyone that that summoning was the one and only life-saving talisman her master had given her, and she could no longer summon her master a second time now. Hearing this answer, they were naturally unwilling, and after entangling a few more times like pleading, but all possibilities being firmly vetoed by Ning Rongrong. The light in Tang San's eyes dimmed, immediately replaced by a sense of resolute determination. Just as in the original work, he asked Oscar for a flying mushroom sausage, deciding to go after the Titan Giant Ape alone to find Xiao Wu. Tang San ate the mushroom sausage, and illusory wings grew out from behind him, soaring up into the air. Standing in place, Ning Rongrong watched Tang San's flying away back. In the end, she still felt some unbearable reluctance and guilt. Taking a deep breath, she decided to follow along to search for Xiao Wu together. With a slight stomp of her foot, Fu Ho Kimin silently operated. The Kimin formation unfolded beneath her feet, and spatial directions became extremely clear in her eyes. Utilizing the high-speed movement ability of Fu Ho Kimin, her figure turned into a residual blur among the forest, also following up to search for Xiao Wu together. Although Tang San had the flying sausage given by Oscar to fly, the effective duration of the mushroom sausage was only 1 minute. After flying 3,000 meters, he ultimately still failed to keep up, stopped halfway, and leaned against a tree panting to recover his stamina. Meanwhile, Ning Rongrong, who had guilt in her heart, instead gritted her teeth and fully utilized Fu Ho Kimin to accelerate herself. She constantly turned the 4 discs within the Kimin formation, keeping herself always in the gate of life in the auspicious position, her speed astonishingly fast. Following the traces carved out in the forest by the Titan Giant Ape's massive body, she went deep all the way to search for Xiao Wu's tracks. Not knowing how long she had run, Ning Rongrong acutely sensed the change in aura ahead. She immediately restrained her own spirit power, borrowed Fu Ho Kimin to hide her vital breath, and slowed her pace. In the end, she actually successfully followed to the location where Xiao Wu was. Hiding and quietly approaching, Ning Rongrong squatted down behind a dense bush, holding her breath to observe the situation and act according to circumstances. Through the gaps in the leaves, her eyes widened the next moment. Chapter 78, You Gorilla, how long has it been since you brushed your teeth? 100 meters ahead, in a cleared open space, the Titan giant ape lay prone on the ground. Its mountain-like body was unbelievably docile at this moment. Its lantern-sized, yellow crystal eyes were lowered, and the expression in its gaze could only be described by Ningrongrong in 2 words. Obedient. And Xiao Wu was standing right in front of the Titan giant ape. Alive. Unscathed. And even, talking to it. Ming, let's stop right here, don't walk any further, I need to hurry back as soon as possible. Xiao Wu's voice clearly reached Ningrongrong's ears, otherwise they will worry. Ming, you really shouldn't have come out to look for me. The Titan giant ape shook its huge head, its eyes surprisingly revealing an innocent look. Ningrongrong squatted behind a cluster of bushes, her entire body freezing up. Her brain completely stopped functioning at this very instant. Xiao Wu was talking to the Titan giant ape. The Titan giant ape could understand. Moreover, the look in its eyes when looking at Xiao Wu, that docility, that attachment. Little San is injured, Xiao Wu's voice carried worry, when I was taken away by you, he must have been extremely anxious. Little San, you must not act rashly, I am going right back. Ming, the next time you sense my aura, observe from a distance first, and absolutely do not make a rash move. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if you accidentally harm my friends. The Titan giant ape nodded. Ningrongrong tightly covered her mouth, not letting a single sound leak out. Xiao Wu raised her head to look at the Titan giant ape. Ming, is Ming doing well? The Titan giant ape nodded again. That's good, Xiao Wu's tone eased a bit. I'm afraid my partners will worry, so I must hurry back. Since I was brought out by you, I might as well complete my 3rd spirit ring now, saving me the trouble of finding another opportunity next time. I will start now, and you will protect me. I'm sorry, Ming, although I won't help them hunt spirit beasts, I can't stop them either. The Titan giant ape let out a muffled low roar. The sound wasn't loud, but it spread for a full 1,000 meters. Ningrongrong felt that the auras of the spirit beasts in all directions were fleeing wildly at this instant. Then Xiao Wu sat cross-legged in front of the Titan giant ape. With both hands forming orchid mudras, her right palm facing upward and her left hand held vertically in front of her chest, she emitted a series of strange sounds from her mouth. Her eyes gradually turned red. 2 circles of yellow spirit rings rose from her feet, pulsing up and down. A huge white phantom formed behind her. Jade Rabbit. A bright red light spread from Xiao Wu's body, growing increasingly intense and permeating like blood. Then, purple light spots condensed within the red light. A circle of purple halo formed on its own and slowly settled onto Xiao Wu. Millennium Spirit Ring. Without hunting any spirit beasts. Generated by herself. Ningrongrong's pupils violently constricted. Squatting behind the bushes, she felt like she had fallen into an icy cave. All cognition in her brain regarding the Spirit Master cultivation system was completely subverted at this moment. Spirit rings must be obtained by hunting spirit beasts. This was an immutable ironclad rule of the Douluo continent since ancient times. Yet Xiao Wu had generated a Millennium Spirit Ring by herself. How could that be? Unless... Ningrongrong suddenly remembered a story her father had told her when she was young about a spirit beast transforming into a human. A 100,000-year spirit beast transforming into a human and falling in love with a human. People transformed from such spirit beasts feared cultivators at the titled Douluo level the most. Because a titled Douluo could see through their identity at a glance. Unconsciously. Frightened by her own thoughts, Ningrongrong staggered back a few steps, snapping a few dead branches. Then, the next moment, the Titan giant ape's terrifying crimson pupils, resembling bronze bells, suddenly looked over, locking gazes with Ningrongrong through the thick bushes. Swish. Bang. With a violent bounce and leap, it slammed down directly in front of Ningrongrong like the launch and landing of a 10,000-ton missile. Ningrongrong was knocked over onto the ground, one hand supporting herself, the other covering her mouth, looking in a disheveled and terrified manner at the Titan giant ape in front of her that opened its crimson bloody maw toward her, standing several stories tall and blotting out the sky. No. Xiao Wu's startled scream came from afar. But it was already too late. The Titan giant ape's mountain-like body lurched forward abruptly, its crimson giant mouth opened wide toward Ningrongrong's direction, and a heaven-shaking roar exploded thunderously. That was not a spirit ability. It was merely a pure roar. But the airwave wrapped within this roar was like an invisible wall, carrying the uncontained coercion of a 100,000-year spirit beast, slamming head-on into Ningrongrong's body. Ningrongrong's eardrums felt as if they were pierced by needles. Her entire body was knocked backward by the airwave, her vision distorted and deformed amidst the violent shaking. The Titan giant ape's extremely ferocious ape face, those 2 rows of pearly white fangs, and that abyss-like crimson throat were infinitely magnified in her eyes. It's over. I'm going to die. Ningrongrong's consciousness flashed with this thought with extreme clarity at this moment. It wasn't an act, it wasn't an exaggeration, it was pure fear of death from biological instinct, with every cell in her body screaming wildly. Her body had already begun falling backward. Her eyelids were already beginning to drop. Then, in that blurred field of vision about to plunge completely into darkness, a voice came from the void. Very light. Carrying a trace of helplessness. And a tiny bit of meaning that she couldn't tell whether it was moved or disgusted. You guy, usually you're so energetic at talking back to your master with your mouth, but when something actually happens, do you distrust your master this much? Ningrongrong's consciousness had blurred to the point where only the last shred of an afterimage remained. In that light about to be extinguished, a figure stepped out of the void out of thin air. Black hair, blue and white athletic wear. That face that made her want to both hit and scold him. Paji. Completely fainted. Yongqing stepped out, his figure landing steadily directly in front of the spot where Ningrongrong had fallen, less than 3 meters away from the still roaring Titan giant ape before him. He lowered his head and glanced at Ningrongrong lying on the ground behind him. Breathing steadily, pale-faced, she had simply been scared unconscious. Raising his head again. Before him was a pitch-black Titan giant ape, 7 to 8 meters tall at the shoulder, with muscles bulging like small mounds. 2 lantern-sized yellow crystal pupils were staring at him with confusion. On the open space about 100 meters away, Xiao Wu stood in place, covering her mouth with both hands, her face full of astonishment. Yongqing's brain turned for a moment, roughly piecing together the full picture of the matter. Ningrongrong followed along. Discovered Xiao Wu's secret. The Titan giant ape discovered Ningrongrong. Scared her unconscious. As for why the master talisman was triggered, he was also somewhat puzzled. When Yongqing designed the underlying adjudication logic of the master talisman, he had considered a problem. No matter how powerful he was, no matter how profound his talisman-making mastery of the heavenly connecting talisman was, it was impossible to accurately determine from 1,000 miles away whether a certain external energy fluctuation posed a fatal threat to the host of the talisman. An attack from a level 90 spirit beast was fatal to an ordinary person, but to someone wearing max-level defensive gear, it might not even scratch their skin. Energy intensity did not equal real danger. So he took a shortcut. Not just detecting external threat levels, but monitoring Ning Rongrong's psychological fluctuations. When Ning Rongrong generated the extreme fear of, I am going to die, from the bottom of her heart, truly and without any disguise, the master talisman would trigger the ultimate alarm. Then as long as it simultaneously detected abnormal energy fluctuations in the outside world far exceeding the host's own spirit power level, it would immediately issue a warning. Both conditions were met just now. So his side received the reminder warning, and then he came. After arriving, he found it was a false alarm. This Titan giant ape didn't want to kill Ning Rongrong at all. It just scared her unconscious. Yangqing glanced at Erming's big yellow crystal eyes, the emotions inside were very clear to him. Not killing intent. Panic. Being at a loss of what to do because, oh no, I've been seen. Just as Yangqing was thinking, the Titan giant ape in front of him made the first move. Erming stared at the human who suddenly appeared out of thin air before it, a trace of confusion flashing in its huge ape pupils. How did this human in front of it suddenly appear? Erming's sense of unease rose a notch. It opened its mouth and once again let out a deterrent roar directly at the front of Yangqing. This time it carried a warning meaning. Arg. The air wave rushed forward head-on like a hurricane. Yangqing's hair was blown completely straight back, his eyes narrowing slightly due to the wind pressure. He raised his hand and waved it in front of his face with a hint of disgust. Whoa, what terrible breath. Yangqing frowned, tilted his head to the side, and curled the corner of his mouth downward. You gorilla, how long has it been since you brushed your teeth? Erming's yellow crystal pupils violently shrank. It understood. As a high-level spirit beast that had cultivated for 130,000 years, its intelligence was long no less than a human's. It completely understood what the human in front of it was saying. It was disgusted by its bad breath, and was also calling it a gorilla. Furious. Pure fury, caused by its dignity being offended, exploded from within Erming's body. It was the forest king of the Stardew Great Forest. On this land, no creature dared to be so disrespectful to it, let alone call it a gorilla. Its huge right palm was raised high, descending from the sky like a black mountain wall, slamming down toward the top of Yangqing's head with the force of 10,000 jun. The ground had already begun to crack before the wind of the palm arrived. The air was compressed to the point of emitting a sharp screech. Yangqing stood in place without moving. He merely raised his left hand casually. His 5 fingers spread open, giving a gentle block. Bang. Erming's giant palm slapped onto the back of Yangqing's hand. The sound was muffled. Like a giant boulder smashing onto cotton, or like a heavy punch hitting the deep ocean. The power was swallowed up. Erming's ape arm maintained the downward pressing posture, but could no longer advance even a single millimeter. Its terrifying arm strength, which was enough to crush a century-old giant tree, was steadily supported by the palm of a single human hand. For the first time, confusion surfaced within its huge yellow crystal pupils. Why couldn't it push it down? Why could a human catch its full force strike? Yangqing just supported Erming's palm with one hand, while the index finger of his other hand reached into his own ear, digging carelessly twice and then flicked away whatever was on his fingertip. Master put on such a big act of pretending, how can the disciple be sleeping heavily on the ground? Chapter 79, Master, the next kick is going to be very cool. He turned his head to glance at Ning Rongrong, who was still lying unconscious on the ground behind him, and muttered a bit displeased ly. With a flick of his wrist. His left hand still supported Erming's giant palm without moving an inch, while his right hand traced a light blue energy talisman out of thin air, flicking it out to accurately stick it onto Ning Rongrong's forehead. Ning Rongrong's eyelids twitched violently twice. Her spirit was awakened, and her consciousness poured back into her shell. She opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was the night sky overhead, more than half blocked by a massive black body, as well as the ape face of the Titan giant ape, pitch black, ferocious, and right up close, extending its giant palm in her direction. Ah! Ning Rongrong's scream resounded through the entire forest. She bounced up from the ground, scrambling backward in a panic, her voice so sharp it cracked. Master, 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 save me. Coming, coming. A lazy voice came from ahead. Master is already here, keep shouting and my ears are going to be deafened by you. Ning Rongrong's scream came to an abrupt halt. Her gaze shifted away from the heaven-covering, colossal Titan giant ape, and she finally saw the figure standing between herself and that behemoth. Not tall, not robust, and even seeming rather inconspicuous compared to the behemoth before him. Yet one of his hands was raised, blocking in front of the Titan giant ape's millstone-sized palm, with a posture as casual as if he were holding a plate. Yangqing. Her stinking, swindler of a master. You, when did you arrive? Ning Rongrong's voice was still trembling. Just when you fainted earlier. Yangqing didn't even turn his head. Ning Rongrong was dazed for a second. She remembered. That voice and that blurry figure before she fainted. At the time, she thought it was an illusion before death. It wasn't an illusion. He really came. But Ning Rongrong's first reaction after snapping back to her senses wasn't relief or being moved. Instead, looking at Yangqing's posture of single-handedly supporting the giant palm of the Titan giant ape, along with the king of the forest in front of her that was still continuously pressing down and exerting force with muscles taut like iron, her face instantly turned pale. Master, run quickly. She abruptly stood up from the ground, her voice trembling with urgency. Take me and run fast. Teacher Zhao and Tang San said this is the king of the forest, the Titan giant ape. 100-year level 1 is equivalent to a 10,000-year level spirit beast, and Teacher Zhao said it's at least at the 10,000-year level. Even a titled Douluo might not be its match. As soon as Ning Rongrong's voice fell. In the distance, Xiao Wu, who had been standing blankly in place all along, finally reacted. She ran desperately toward the side, shouting as she ran. Senior Yangqing, quickly take Rongrong and run. Erming is a 100,000-year-old Titan giant ape, don't fight him head-on. There was genuine anxiety and fear in Xiao Wu's voice. She knew Yangqing was a titled Douluo, but in her eyes, an ordinary human titled Douluo was simply courting death when facing a Titan giant ape with 100,000 years of cultivation. The words of Ning Rongrong and Xiao Wu, one after the other, poured into Yangqing's ears almost simultaneously. Hearing the words, 100,000 years, clearly, Ning Rongrong's expression grew even more panicked. But Yangqing's hand supporting Erming's giant palm did not move. He used the pinky finger of his free right hand to dig into his ear, then flick it away as if he had flicked something out. His movements were leisurely and unhurried. Is that so? 2 words. Uttered lightly. No rebuttal, no explanation, not even a glance back at Ning Rongrong. He merely tilted his head slightly, revealing half his face to Ning Rongrong behind him. The corners of his mouth turned up. Good disciple, watch carefully. After a pause. Master's next kick will be very cool. The instant his voice fell, Yang Xing's left hand, which was supporting Erming's giant palm, suddenly vibrated. That force wasn't particularly large, just a gentle shake, but Erming only felt an irresistible rebound force coming from his simian arm, which was thick enough to prop up half a mountain. His entire arm was forcibly bounced away, and his giant palm broke away from Yang Xing's palm. Erming's body leaned back slightly due to this sudden rebound force. Right in the gap of that backward lean, Yang Xing's body had already soared into the air. He had no run-up. The action of his feet leaving the ground was as light as if he had simply jumped casually. But the next moment, his entire person had risen to a height level with Erming's head. His right leg straightened. His waist and hips twisted violently. With an aerial horizontal sweep, the instep of his foot precisely struck the side of the Titan giant ape's chest. The instant the power poured out, the air was compressed to the point of bursting. Bang! This sound was not a dull thud. It was a sonic explosion. Like a cannonball detonating in a confined space, the shockwave of the expanding sonic boom swept out in all directions, blowing away all the fallen leaves, gravel, and soil within a radius of more than 10 meters. Erming's terrifying, 7 to 8 meter tall body, under this kick, was like a fly being swatted away. His body flew backward at a speed the naked eye could barely keep up with. Along the way, dozens of towering giant trees that required 3 people to embrace were directly snapped by his body, wood chips and fragments bursting and scattering like raindrops. 20 trees. 30 trees. 50 trees. The roaring sound of giant trees snapping and collapsing one after another was endless, extending like dominoes all the way to several hundred meters away. In the end, Erming's body heavily smashed onto the ground in the distance, smashing out a deep trench more than 10 meters wide. Dust soared into the sky, obscuring the vision of that area. The forest fell silent for 3 seconds at this moment. Then, all the birds and beasts within a radius of several kilometers fled in all directions as if granted amnesty. The flapping of wings, the wails of misery, and the rustling sounds of escaping intertwined into one, instantly fading into the distance. Yang Xing landed back on the ground. His soles touched the ground gently, without a shred of excess vibration. He turned around, facing Ning Rongrong. Ning Rongrong was sitting on the ground. She didn't even remember when she had sat back down on the ground. Her entire person maintained a posture of tilting her head back, her mouth wide open, eyes wide, her pupils still retaining the afterimage of that kick just now. Titan giant ape. King of the forest. 100,000 years of cultivation. A terrifying spirit beast equivalent to a human super Douluo above level 95. Kicked flying for several hundred meters by her master with a single kick. Like kicking a ball. Holy cow, Ning Rongrong's lips moved, her voice so soft that almost only she could hear it. Is this stinking swindler of a master of mine really this exaggerated? On the other side, Xiao Wu was frozen in place. Her legs were as if nailed to the ground, unable to take a single step. As a 100,000-year-old spirit beast who had taken human form, she knew better than anyone what Erming's strength meant. He was the strongest existence in the entire Stardow Great Forest that she knew of, apart from Duming. Even an ordinary human titled Douluo would only end up fleeing in panic before Erming. But now, Erming had been kicked flying by a human using a single leg. How is that possible? Xiao Wu's voice trembled. Erming was just kicked away like that by a human spirit master. Yang Xing did not look at Ning Rongrong. His gaze swept past Ning Rongrong and landed on the young girl in the distance, dressed in a pink dress with a long braid hanging down her legs. Xiao Wu. Having not seen her for just a few days, her figure had undergone obvious curves. Compared to her previously less curved body lines, her overall build was now noticeably more upright, and her chest and round buttocks had also become somewhat fuller. His gaze was calm. He did not smile. Classmate Xiao Wu. Yang Xing's voice carried over, neither loud nor soft, but every single word fell clearly into Xiao Wu's ears. Wait until I finish dealing with this big gorilla. His tone remained the same emotionless blandness. You had better give me a proper explanation. The moment those words fell, Xiao Wu's body trembled visibly. Her complexion paled within a few seconds. Ning Rongrong saw Xiao Wu and also saw Xiao Wu's pale complexion. Yang Xing withdrew his gaze and looked back at Ning Rongrong, the usual smile hanging back on his face as if the coldness from just a moment ago was merely an illusion. Rongrong. Ning Rongrong had yet to recover from the shock. Watch closely right here. Yang Xing reached out and flicked her forehead, smiling mischievously. Next time, you are not allowed to look down on your master like this. Before his voice faded, Yang Xing's right foot slammed fiercely against the ground. Boom. The ground beneath his feet shattered outward like a spiderweb, and gravel and clumps of mud rose into the air. The moment the gravel flew up, his figure vanished from the spot, leaving only a light blue afterimage that the naked eye could barely catch, along with a circle of visible sonic boom white mist suddenly bursting open in the air. This was pure physical body explosion, not the spatial displacement previously utilized through Fu Hokiman. Several hundred meters away, in the dust-filled deep trench, Erming was supporting the ground with both arms, struggling to pull his upper body out of the mud. A large chunk of his left chest and abdomen was caved in, and the location of the broken ribs formed a startling depression under his pitch-black fur. In his yellow crystal-like giant pupils, there was no longer anger, replaced by pure fear and incomprehension originating from biological instinct. Pain. The pain brought by that kick was something he had never experienced in his life. He was the Titan giant ape, the king of the Stardow Great Forest. His physical strength and defense surpassed all spirit beasts across the entire continent. Even a spirit beast of the same level giving him a full-strength blow could only scrape off a layer of skin. But that human's kick had almost caved in his chest cavity. Erming desperately wanted to stand up. His forelimbs had just propped him up to half the height. A shadow descended from the sky. Erming had no time to raise his head. Boom. The kick that Yang Xing stomped down from high altitude landed accurately on Erming's back. Terrifying power poured out from the soles of his feet, unreservedly pouring into Erming's body. Arg. An unprecedentedly miserable scream burst forth from Erming's throat. His body, which had just propped itself up halfway, was instantly smashed back to the ground. No, it was smashed into the ground. With his body as the center, the surface of the earth suddenly collapsed as if struck by a meteorite. The earth was trembling. Soil, gravel, and broken tree roots splashed outward radially from the center point. A mushroom cloud of dust rose into the air from the impact point, rushing dozens of meters high. The shockwave expanded outward with Erming as the center, and all the trees within a range of nearly 100 meters were uprooted or snapped at the waist, forming a huge, progressively decreasing sunken and cracked crater from the center to the outermost periphery. Ning Rongrong watched the rising dust mushroom cloud from afar. The ground was still trembling. She sat in place, her lips opening and closing and opening. In the end, she only managed to squeeze out one sentence. Holy moly, that is way too cool. ... The mushroom cloud slowly dispersed. Gravel, clumps of mud, and broken tree roots fell to the ground like raindrops, rattling for a long time before gradually subsiding. The moment vision cleared again, a huge crater appeared before everyone's eyes. In the center of the crater, the titan giant ape Erming spread his limbs, lying limply in the cracked soil. His mountain-like terrifying body now resembled a collapsed black ruin. His abdominal cavity was noticeably caved in, his pitch black fur was soaked in blood spreading from the top of his head to his neck, and half of his head looked as if it had been smashed by a giant hammer, swelling and deforming until his original outline was almost unrecognizable. His huge yellow crystal-like eyes were half closed, leaving only weak, heavy breathing to prove that he was still alive. Yangqing stood on his head. One foot casually stepped on Erming's head, while the tip of his other foot gently tapped twice on his frontal bone, as if confirming something. Then he raised his foot. His lower leg straightened, heel pointing down, gathering strength. It was clear he intended to step down again. Just at this moment, a pink figure appeared out of thin air 3 meters directly in front of Yangqing. Xiao Wu. Her third spirit ability, teleportation, allowed her to appear directly beside Yangqing and Erming. Her long scorpion braid was somewhat disheveled due to the previous running and teleportation, with a few strands of black hair clinging to her fair neck. The pink dress tightly wrapped around her body, which had become more mature due to spontaneously condensing a spirit ring just moments before. Her waist was slender, but the curves of her chest and buttocks were visibly fuller than a few days ago, transforming her entire person from a young girl into a young woman with a certain charm. But at this moment, her complexion was as pale as paper. Don't. Xiao Wu's voice was sharp, urgent, and tinged with trembling. I beg you, stop hitting him. Yangqing's raised foot stopped midair. He neither dropped it nor withdrew it, maintaining the posture of stepping on Erming's head with one foot while the other foot hovered in the air. He turned his head slightly and glanced at Xiao Wu. That glance was very bland. So bland that Xiao Wu felt as if she had been doused from head to toe with a basin of ice water. On what grounds? 3 words, light and breezy, no anger, no killing intent, just a pure question. But these words falling into Xiao Wu's ears were heavier than any interrogation. Xiao Wu's lips moved, her voice stuck in her throat. Yangqing's foot slowly retracted, stepping back onto Erming's head. He didn't use force, just stepped on it. With his arms crossed over his chest, he looked down at Xiao Wu. On the grounds of your status as a 100,000-year spirit beast. Xiao Wu's body trembled violently. Even though she already knew Yangqing had seen through her, when these words were spoken so bluntly, the fear of having all her disguises stripped away still made her knees go soft. Yangqing did not give her time to react. Or on the grounds that Rongrong almost faced danger just to save you. Xiao Wu's complexion paled by another shade. Or perhaps, Yangqing's tone remained steady, since you feel your identity is already exposed, you simply condoned his actions against Rongrong. No. Xiao Wu practically screamed it out. She shook her head frantically, her voice sharp and rapid. I absolutely didn't mean that. Erming really didn't want to hurt Rongrong just now. He just saw someone peeking and instinctively wanted to scare them away. He wouldn't actually hurt anyone.